Back in the game. They fake the handoff to him. Chapin, dancing, lofting, and it is caught. Touchdown. Hal Presley.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Roberts has 49 yards on 8 carries already. And Roberts busts through into the end zone again. 20 yards and a touchdown.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
They go I formation. They brought in Dylan Doyle as the fullback. They'll pitch it out to Squirrel Williams. He's got it inside into the Crimson. Baylor with a touchdown.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Inside the red zone, Daniels, there's that counter again, and Daniels to the 10, to the end zone, touchdown Air Force, 17 yards.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
He will empty it out here, 5 wide on 3rd and long. Tunnel screen, Monterey Baldwin has an opening. Monterey, touchdown Baylor.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Well, good afternoon. It is frigid, it is cold, it is blustery, it is winter at its best in Texas, and maybe not quite as bad as it was a couple of years ago when, of course, the entire state went under a blanket of ice and knocked out the power. But we're inside Amon Carter Stadium in Fort Worth on the campus of TCU. I'm David Smoak, Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina. Baylor today playing Air Force Academy, 6:30 the kickoff in the Armed Forces Bowl. We will hear from former Baylor quarterback Seth Russell today at 3:30. We have some news in college football, including breaking news, although not surprising after what Dave Aranda mentioned. Apuika opted out of the game today, is turning pro. We'll get into Air Force and Baylor. We'll have our pregame show that kicks off at 4:30 on KWTX and, of course, on 365 Sports. And yes, yesterday a little bit more on National Signing Day. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, Apuika, not a surprise, opt out of a bowl game to do that to get ready to play in the NFL.
Yeah, I kind of wish I could opt out too. It's terrible down there. I could opt out for all of them tonight on both teams. It is frigid and awful, but yeah, not a surprise. He's got potential to be a first round pick. He's going to be an early draft pick. He has a skill set that is, very sought after in the NFL. So not uncommon. And, Baylor, I know that the fans, this is going to sound weird. They need to get to the point where they have more potential opt-outs. Guys that do and stay. Yeah. You ideally want what you had last year where nobody did opt out because was one of the biggest moments in school history. But either that, they lose a good player tonight, and especially against an Air Force team, you kind of want your stud nose tackle in there. But this was coming anyway, and they prepared as if he wasn't going to play the whole time. So it's just official news to us now, but it's not like he told the team this morning.
No, David Aranda told everybody yesterday, actually, in his press conference. He mentioned, remember, that Siaki Ika wasn't going to play and that Mark Milton wasn't going to play. So we knew that yesterday, but we didn't see the official announcement from Apu until right now, or like an hour ago, basically, when he took to Instagram. But, yeah, I mean, this was inevitable. I mean, this was never a question to me. I never thought he was going to play in this bowl game once they announced what it was. And I think even if he had initially decided to come up here and he had walked outside earlier this morning, then he would have decided to change his mind. So, yeah, I mean, the only downside outside of just the game tonight and obviously playing a running team like Air Force, you'd love to have your big NFL nose tackle. That's going to hurt them, but I think they've had enough of a heads up that they understand and have prepared accordingly. I doubt he was out there up until yesterday, working with the team and getting ready for Air Force. So I think that they've worked around this already, and, we'll see what happens. But the other downside, other than just not having him available against this team in particular, is that he's played his last game, and there's not like a big grand send-off, really. I guess maybe he would do that at Pro Day to some degree, and fans can obviously always extend their best wishes, as I'm sure they have on his post and everything. But was a great player for a couple of years, a big part of the championship team last year, stud in every way, and more of a Baylor guy than an LSU guy, which is not always the case with transfers if you think about it. Some guys play 4 years somewhere and then they go close out their career for a year. Apu was at LSU for the beginning, and then, the last 2 years here in Waco. So great player, really fun dude to follow, and best of luck to him.
All right, so, yeah, it's not a surprise, although, again, he had to make it official, and he did. So good luck to Apuika. He was a major part and contributor to what they did a year ago with that Sugar Bowl and Big 12 championship, and also this year, despite the disappointment of 6-6. What does this game mean to me for Baylor football? And I think everyone agrees they need a nice little adrenaline rush with a win. 6-7's a losing season. 7-6 a winning season. It's a one-loss difference. But it does mean something. And now you're going to have to play in some horrible conditions because it was 0 and maybe -1 wind chill, depending on where you were when you were driving into Amon Carter in Fort Worth earlier today. If you have a suite, you're the smartest people in the world. We're lucky we're in the press box. We'll see what the crowd is like tonight at 6:30.
Yeah, I called my aunt to wish her Merry Christmas, on the way up here. And she goes, "Oh, don't go there. It's terrible. You don't want to sit outside." I said, "No." I said, I chose a profession that allows me to go up into the press box. Otherwise, you could not have paid me enough to sit outside.
Absolutely.
It's going to be really interesting to see how many people show up for this thing.
No, it is.
It's like ridiculously cold. This isn't like we live in Texas and we don't know what cold is. No, it's like bitterly cold. If you don't have gloves or a mask on walking from the parking lot, then you feel like your face is burning because of the wind and just because of how cold it is. But the wind is really kicking it up a notch. So I actually was in the elevator, and some lady who's part of the concessions or whatever is like, how are the players going to play in this? So I guess she's not really much of a football fan, because that goes without saying that they're going to go out there and play in this. It's not, like deadly conditions, but it's not going to be fun. Although it might be. Maybe those, some guys feel like this is the funnest type of game to play in is when you're, in the cold like this. But sprinkling a little bit, hopefully the rain stays away, because that would just really trump it up and make it bad for the fans and for the style of game. But good luck if you pass, which for Air Force doesn't change their game in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. For Baylor, Blake Shapen better zip it, man, because that's not going to be easy to get the ball around in the air in this condition.
Two things happen when the wind blows. Usually it was going from one direction to the next, or it does go from one direction to the next. The coin toss can be critical. Also muffed, not just snaps, but muffed punts, because the ball can get a little bit wobbly. You got to be careful with that and how the ball. It's -4 right now, wind chill, based on weather.com here in Fort Worth. Let's get to some of the other stories today.
Yeah, and I think actually that's the issue issue when it comes to like fans here. If it was just cold, if it was just 25 degrees outside or 15, like you could bundle up and, sit close to each other and you're kind of going to make it through. But the wind is not going to stop blowing. It hasn't stopped blowing all day. It's like huge gusts, 30 miles an hour.
And the sun doesn't go down until like it's going to get even colder here.
What sun?
In about 2.5 hours, or at least the sun that's trying to get through the clouds, which it won't. All right, so Apuika opted out, and now he's going to turn pro. That's just a matter of just a continuation of yesterday. Dominic Richardson, this year, 24 carries, 73 yards, and a touchdown in the win against Baylor at McLean Stadium. He was a part of that when Oklahoma State beat Baylor. He has signed with Baylor. 2 years left, a running back that brings a little power, a guy that usually is leaning forward. You have Richard Reese, you have Bryson Washington, you have players and whoever's going to come back for next year, but they do sign Oklahoma State in the transfer portal, Dominic Richardson, to add depth at the running back position. It's a piece. He's not a game breaker. He's not going to go 75. He was effective for Oklahoma State, but he's a banger. And in this offense with the wide zone, just another body. Because at one point this year, remember, they were very low when it comes to the depth of the running back position.
Yeah, I actually think he's going to fit in the offense really, really well. I think that it'll work out for him great. I think he fits well. I think again, they've got Richard Reese who can all of a sudden turn on the Jets and go 50. But what they really did need at times was like sometimes you just need to get 3. Like just get 3.
Or break a tackle and make a 2-yard run into a 6-yard run or something like that.
Yeah, he's a good hard runner. He's not going to be a guy that's going to regularly get you 100 yards in most games, but they don't need him to be a premier feature back. I think that they just need another guy in that room that can run downhill, run hard, and like y'all said, get him a few yards when needed. But yeah, I mean, he was a good player for Oklahoma State, and so you're stealing one from a Big 12 rival. I saw a couple Pokes fans, and I'm sure there are plenty that like, well, whatever, you know how fans, there's always mixed reactions, but I did see a couple that sounded off on how weird it is to see a guy go from Oklahoma State to Baylor, but that's the world everybody wished for, and so that's going to be more commonplace is seeing guys bounce from one team to the next. I mean, we saw that with Georgia and Bama guys last year, going from one to the other, and so that's part of the market now. And so, so Dominic Richardson a couple years ago is losing to Baylor in a Big 12 title game. He's now going to be trying to win a Big 12 title with the Bears. But to me, this says that they still don't have enough of the right fits that they would like in the running back room. And to me, this says we're probably going to see some running back attrition. I don't know how we won't because Squirrel Williams hasn't made any official decision, but with his injuries, you wouldn't be surprised if he just said, screw this, I'm going to go coach or whatever it is he wants to do afterwards. I mean, does Jordan Jenkins still fit in this offense? I mean, you would think at this point you would have him knocking on the door to play, and maybe he is. But it just makes me wonder of, how they still clearly have a piece missing in that running back room, despite the fact they've got a handful of guys. So.
With Jordan Jenkins in particular, Craig, what was concerning to me is here's a guy who's been on campus for 2 years now and was, is in his redshirt freshman years when you want to start seeing something from a running back, maybe not being the lead guy, but when you put him in, seeing something. And they were at a point this year where they were down, Richard Reese wasn't playing in a game and Squirrel Williams wasn't playing and Tay McWilliams wasn't playing in a game and Quaylon Jones had been ineffective and Jordan Jenkins didn't see the field. So,
he had a concussion.
Yeah.
He got hurt in practice, and Tay McWilliams had a concussion out the entire year after Brigham Young, and including Brigham Young. And then same thing apparently happened from what I've been told about Jordan Jenkins, who I thought would be the perfect body for this wide zone. Power, pretty good speed, someone who's used to carrying the ball a lot. And you're right, though. What is his future? Is he a part of the plans? Does he want to still be at Baylor?
What is Quaylon Jones' future?
Yeah,
what is Squirrel Williams' future?
Yep.
What is Jordan Jenkins' future? I mean, name a guy.
Tay. I mean,
what is Tay McWilliams' future? I mean, honestly, if you're putting odds on who might be the first out the door, and maybe, nobody is, but I feel like it's a pretty good sign that there's somebody going out the door if you're picking up Dominic Richardson. That makes me wonder who might be a part of that attrition, and maybe it's Squirrel, like I said. But Jordan Jenkins is a young guy that, you'd want to hopefully start seeing something from here pretty quickly, or else it leads you to wonder if, maybe it's just not the right fit. But that all gets solved in the coming weeks. I mean, they got a big piece, though, as far as trying to reshape this roster. 2 of them today, and Richardson was one of them. So glad to have him on board and start covering him.
He had 131 yards, 27 carries against Arizona State in a win. He had 73 against Baylor. His other best game, 72 against TCU in that double overtime loss. 3 touchdowns he ran for against Texas. 13 carries for 24 yards, but he had the short touchdown runs. And so 543 yards, 8 touchdowns. So he did get in the end zone for Oklahoma State. Also, remember Campbell Barrington about a week or so ago, changed transfer portal, Brigham Young, signed with Baylor. His brother, Clark Barrington, 6'6", 305. He now joins his brother and joins his former offensive line coach and coordinator with Jeff Grimes and Eric Mateos. Mateos, the offensive line coach, had 40 starts, thought of as an NFL prospect. So now Barrington, you fill 2 offensive line roles from Brigham Young, as he also is signed to play for the Bears next year.
Well, all 5 guys that they wanted to be the starters this year, I know injuries and all that, are all leaving. I mean, Micah Mazuka's gone, Khalil Keith will be gone, all those guys we got. Now, Gavin Byers played in relief of Khalil Keith, while he was injured, but he does have to get better, and I don't even know if he's at the right position at right tackle for him. So it is good that they're getting offensive line transfers in, because they need that. I mean, you can't lose 5 guys and not get in the portal in today's day. And
I don't think they're done adding to that.
I don't think they should be. Yeah, I think they can comfortably add 2 more, and then let some of the younger guys that like Mose Jeffrey's a senior too, so they're losing a lot of depth off that line of guys who are out of eligibility.
Yeah, it's not necessarily, wasn't a foregone conclusion, but you started to kind of add things up, and it seemed like, once he got in the portal, the odds were he's probably going to join his brother. So, with the Mateos familiarity, as you mentioned, and Jeff Grimes as well, there's not like I doubt there was too much of a getting to know per se. But yeah, you love the pickup just from a depth standpoint, and obviously then you see the experience and you go, okay, yeah, that's a guy that could probably start for you next year, which they, as y'all pointed out, really need. That transfer portal, some days you love it, some days you hate it because of how it affects your team or whatnot, but it's certainly a great fixer-upper, no pun intended, when you lose an entire position basically, and you can't really afford to go and just go freshman or your redshirt sophomore as your leading veteran. They could have ran into that problem, and now thanks to the Barrington brothers now being Bears, they're getting a little bit of that hurt taken away, and like you said, I think they probably add some more to that and then develop the young guys they have, but it definitely answers a couple of questions for next season. All
right, we'll skip through this pretty quickly with Craig Paul and our feedback, my feedback as well. Then Seth Russell joins us at 3:30 on the Baylor quarterback play, about Shapen and who else in the quarterback room, and his thoughts about Baylor moving forward, and just what this means, in his opinion, with them at 6-6 Baylor against Air Force here tonight at Amon Carter Stadium. Graham Mertz going to Florida. Wisconsin quarterback to Florida. Jaden Daniels back for another year at LSU. Turned out to be a pretty good player for them, obviously, and they made a much better run than most people expected this year.
Yeah, on Graham Mertz, best of luck to him at Florida, but I would think that he was not the top guy that Florida was trying to get. Now they, have Jaden Rashada coming in as a true freshman. They have Jack Miller, who played in the bowl game this year, and that was it. And that was not. That was not great as anybody who saw, but I can't imagine that. And I'm trying to be as diplomatic to Graham Mertz as I can here, but that was their first choice. He was up and down at Wisconsin at his best. So hopefully Billy Napier can get the most out of him. But even so, I kind of thought that, they might hold out for Grayson McCall, and maybe they still will. But, to get a guy who's a one and done like Graham Mertz, I wouldn't think you'd get in that business with Grayson McCall or anybody else. I know they lost out on Devin Leary when he went to Kentucky, but, I thought maybe somebody else would be further up their chart than Mertz.
Yeah, this kind of happened. I think got lost in the signing day news. But yeah, that was something that just kind of slipped through. And I think I really do. I think outside of Florida, at least on most people's radars, they probably just went by because we were so focused in on so many other things. But, the initial reaction that I saw was very mixed from Florida fans and remains so. Yeah, I mean, kind of what Paul said. I mean, it was not very impressive at Wisconsin, and now you're throwing him into the teeth of the SEC. So that's a very interesting move by Billy Napier. Obviously, there's some reason to be excited about their young guns, but you obviously need to have a little time go by. So I don't know exactly what the mindset is. We need to read more about it and kind of some of the quotes, talking about it to really get a good idea for what the thought process was here. But on the surface, no disrespect to the young man, but that's not one portal move that I go, wow, that really shifts the Gators' potential next year. It's just kind of like, okay, like we'll see what happens, but it's not a blow away commit by any means.
I just want to throw this out there just because of a conversation. If Graham Mertz would have committed to coming to Baylor, would that make a difference?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Peyton Bowen.
I would rather see Shapen play it out.
Well, no, and I wish Blake the best of luck, and Baylor needs him to be at his best next year with what we see now in the quarterback room or lack of it. Now, here's an interesting twist. Yesterday, the day before, of course, National Signing Day, Baylor was caught up, of course, big time in the flip of Austin Novosad overnight, and really ever since Saturday night probably, from a year-long commitment to going to Oregon. Oregon made a huge surge. They flipped the running back that was committed to Notre Dame. They flipped another player committed elsewhere to a big school. And they also appeared to get a dynamic player in Peyton Bowen from Guyer High School in Denton, who then basically all but committed to Oregon yesterday morning. He then put up earlier today, he's headed to Oklahoma. He was a Notre Dame commit, then he was committed to Oregon, and then today he is going to sign, in fact has signed, with Brent Venables and OU.
Yeah, and there was a message board post we threw up on the show about Oregon and Oklahoma getting in for Peyton Bowen, from the Notre Dame website, and that's exactly, it looks like exactly how that played out, and he had a big hat ceremony where he started to put the Notre Dame hat on and threw it away and then put the Oregon hat on. And then I was on a podcast. Somebody had me on last night with Notre Dame fan. They said, what do you think is going to happen with Peyton Bowen? I'm like, well, I get that he's like pumped the brakes, but to me, I wouldn't have done all that theater if I didn't intend to go to Oregon. But again, he's a kid. So now he's going to Oklahoma. So I just think that, I mean, that's the part of all this that really just bothers me is,
think about if you're Oregon and the fans that were thrilled about the commitment and change in the mind of Austin Novosad, right? And the running back from Notre Dame or was committed to Notre Dame. Think about that. And then you wonder what the reaction has been today when Peyton Bowen flips his commitment from Oregon to what appeared to be Oregon to Oklahoma. And then you find out about really who is, okay, wait a minute, don't be hypocritical. It's his career, just like it is with Austin Novosad or anybody else. He's going to play for Oklahoma. That's where Arnold, also the quarterback from Guyer, his teammate will be at OU as well.
I don't feel bad for Oregon in the slightest. I mean, let's get a little bit more specific of what they did on signing day outside of Austin Novosad from Baylor. They also signed Matayo Uiagalelei, 5-star edge rusher. Now, they didn't flip him from anybody. That was just a great get, but they got Peyton Bowen now today, but they also got 4-star Jaden Lamar. They flipped him from Notre Dame. Dalen Austin got him away from LSU, the cornerback. Dante Moore, the quarterback, right before National Signing Day from UCLA. So do I feel bad that they got a guy flipped? Absolutely not. They flipped 5 guys who are all pretty well rated in the build-up or on National Signing Day. So, yeah, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. You live by, whatever they're living by, and you die by that as well. So I don't think that, it's probably something that sits well, but I think all of their other wins and their grabs probably, overcome any sort of like getting too down in the dumps about this, because they had a record type of signing day yesterday, and I'm sure they're still feeling the high from that. But yeah, you would love to have added the cherry on top. And unfortunately for them, they don't. And that's a win for Oklahoma with Peyton Bowen. I mean, a massive 5-star get. I don't like all the games. I don't like all of the wishy-washy sort of back and forth. I mean, yesterday he's sitting there, ready to sign. He flips, and then he's about to sign with who he just flipped to. And he goes from Notre Dame to Oregon, and all of a sudden it's just an afterthought that he's going to sign with Oregon. And that's the thing is, like, you flipped him, and then he got flipped from you. So what are you mad about? Because you just flipped him. Not in addition to all of the other moves that I mentioned, but it just makes me go, what were those conversations behind the scenes like? Because this isn't just your normal signing day story. You know, it's one thing when guys flip. It's another thing when they flip, then postpone, wait till the next day, and then flip to a different school that wasn't even the original two schools. But you know, that'll be in somebody's recruiting tales book one day. On the surface, that's just part of the game now, and it's a great pickup for Oklahoma, and we'll see how he does, because now there will be super high expectations, as if there weren't already, being a 5-star guy. But now, you know, you can imagine there will be a couple fan bases watching his career intently to see exactly how it pans out. But yeah, great job by Brent Venables and company to land him.
All right, 9-4 Air Force, 6-6 Baylor. A little after 6:30 tonight at Amon Carter Stadium. The stadium field behind us. It is awkward. There's no question. I had a coach who used to coach at Baylor send me a text. He goes, "How strange is it Baylor is playing at TCU at Amon Carter Stadium?" It is almost like the icing on the cake of a year that was somewhat disappointing, and obviously the weather involved as well. Go out and win the damn game. Go out and play to get to 7-6 and get some sort of refreshing feeling into the offseason.
Yeah, I felt like part of this feels me like when we walked in, you know, I see like a Baylor truck and then no TCU truck. It's like, should we even be here right now? Like, did we, like, it almost feels like they snuck in to play here, or it just doesn't feel right.
You know what, Gary Patterson thinks they're in here stealing signs, like at practice.
Is he just not getting any attention whatsoever as far as, I mean, he got the UNLV rumor. I guess he talked and walked his way out of head coaching jobs for the time being. So that's a win for Texas. But it's strange to be here for a bowl game. I have said now a few times, I don't think a Big 12 team should be playing in this bowl game. And I'm not saying that because of Baylor. I'm saying that just in general. I don't think it's a really great reward, quite honestly, to go and play in a stadium that you play in every other year. Now, that's going to change, obviously, starting next year. You're not going to necessarily play Fort Worth, or you won't play in Fort Worth every 2 years like teams are accustomed to. But all due respect to the presenting sponsor and, of course, to our armed forces, love all that aspect of it. But just the fact that you're playing your arch rival stadium, it just doesn't sit like. That's your reward for making a bowl game. And before I even read it or hear it, I'm the king of having said now a million times that if you wanted a better game, you should have put yourself in a better position. So I'm not blaming anybody but Baylor for ending up in a spot where they got leapt over and other bowl committees chose others who, like Oklahoma, did not win as many games, but obviously are going to bring a bunch of fans and what they hope is television viewers. So, that's part of the deal. That's unfortunate. It's not really where they should have been if you go by how it lined up, but bowls do have that freedom. And so they chose, others chose other schools, and this is where they ended up. But I don't think it should be Big 12 affiliated. I don't think there should be a Big 12 team playing in a place that they play regularly as a reward for their bowl game.
If it was at AT&T Stadium outside of that, what they do, or even the Cotton Bowl outside of what they do, that does mean a little bit different. It's 6-6 and 9-3. Air Force 9-3. They've played 4 times, I think 3 or 4 times. Baylor's won every time they've played, and they played tonight just after 6:30. When we come back, former Baylor quarterback Seth Russell, always with a lot of great truth serum when it comes to the quarterback play and Baylor football. He will join us today. We're going to take you up until 4:30, and then we'll start our actual 90-minute pregame show, which will also be on KWTX, the CBS local affiliate in Greater Central Texas, and we'll get deeper into the game. We'll also hear from Baylor football coach Dave Aranda. Jack McKenzie yesterday was at the presser. We'll have some of that. We have Emery Winter here, Jacob Wilson here, Jack McKenzie here. We're here. You're here. We'll get to the chat room as well. This is 365 Sports.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
We're back inside Amon Carter Stadium in the media area where the broadcast booths are. Baylor's radio is just a couple of booths down to our right. There's a couple of national radio broadcasts of this game as well. Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina with me. I'm David Smoak. Paul's making contact with Seth Russell. I think we pretty much covered everything when it comes to most of the news today in college football, but we'll get to whatever else we need, and we will do that as the day goes on. We're now joined by former Baylor quarterback Seth Russell with 365 Sports here from Amon Carter Stadium in Fort Worth. Seth, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. What would it be like to you if you guys, back in the day when you, of course, were on some teams that were elite, if you had to play a bowl game at TCU?
A little frustrating, but, hey, just add a little fuel to the fire and and take advantage of the opportunity. You know, regardless if it's in, you know, TCU or in Austin or wherever it's at. Hey, you got the opportunity to go out and represent your university and you know, potentially pull out a big bowl win.
Seth, what was the worst weather you've ever played in?
Oh gosh, I guess the one that I played in was, you know, one that I got hurt in was the Iowa State game in 2015. That was a rainy, cold, just an annoying day, if anything. I guess that was probably really the worst. Definitely not going to be anything close to what today is going to look like, or even back in, I think it may have been 2016. Trying to think, or 2015, you know, played in TCU. I didn't play. I was hurt already, but I was on the sideline when it was rainy and cold. I think it might be something. I don't know if y'all remember that or not, but that was, I feel like that might be a similar outcome to today. Maybe a little less rain, but yeah, nothing. I think today, if anything, will probably be the worst that any Baylor, at least in my regime or my timeline, will have played in weather-wise.
It's super windy, Seth. It's freezing cold. You know, it's going to be hard to keep your hands warm. How does that affect a quarterback like Blake Shapen? We know Air Force isn't going to throw the ball. I mean, if they do, it'll be a surprise. It'll be a couple of times maybe. But for Blake, you know, how do you do that? How do you approach that as a quarterback?
Yeah, you just gotta be ready, right? Have your pocket warmers, have all your things on the sideline that can, you know, really keep you warmed up. I mean, there's no secret to it, right? It's just, hey, sit by the warmer, stay on the bike, keep your body blood pumping, because you know, we all know with Air Force, you know, I think they lead the country in time of possession, and so you might be sitting over there for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. Which, you know, in normal times spreads out to be about 15 to 20 minutes, which can really you know, wear you down pretty quick. Because but you know, yeah, you just got to do what you got to do, right? It's business as usual. That cannot be an excuse for today. Hey, my hands are cold. Well, everybody's hands are cold, right? You're the guy with the ball. You got to make the plays. You know, the team trusts you with the ball in your hands, and you just got to figure out a way to get it done.
You mentioned that game at Amon Carter when it was pouring down rain, and that's when Baylor had that 14-0 lead. It was such a tough loss. But were you on the sideline? You weren't you, in that first ever Big 12 championship when Baylor beat Texas and Mack Brown that day at Floyd Casey Stadium that it shut down the stadium?
Oh, yeah. Close the case. You better believe it. I was there. Yeah, the cold doesn't seem as bad whenever you win, right? Because, I mean, thinking back, and I was talking to, like, some fans and people who were at that game, they were like, man, that was the coldest game I've ever been a part of. But then thinking back in my mind, I'm like, well, maybe during the game it was cold, but afterwards, you know, it felt pretty warm, right? Because had a Big 12 championship, you know, first to put it up on the wall and to be a part of that team. And so I guess, you know, mentally that doesn't really, I don't remember it as being as cold as what it probably was.
Seth, obviously, throwing the ball is going to be difficult tonight, no matter which way you're going on the field, because the wind is just so nutso here. What is your advice for Blake Shapen on how to navigate that when they have to? I mean, look, Air Force doesn't really need any advice on that because they only wanted to throw it 3 times, and they can throw those plays out.
Yeah, I mean, the tough place about TCU is that it's a grass field, right? And it's a grass field, and it's wet, and it's kind of mucky, and it's really windy. Now that's where those deeper cleats are going to come into play now. You know, proper preparation. Hopefully the coaching staff and the equipment staff have taken that into account. You know, giving them the deeper cleats rather than the shallow cleats. But you know, with Shapen, it's you know, you've done the work, right? I mean, we're 6-6 on the season. I mean, this is a game I feel like for Shapen is more of a rebound game, right? We're 0-3 the past three games we played. Hadn't played very well in offense on much of those games. And so this is something that I feel like with Shapen, he's got to go out and just play his game, right? I mean, don't overthink it. Let the ball rip. I mean, watching him throw the deep balls the past 3 games has just been kind of cringeworthy. Just honestly. So I feel like he's just aiming it, right? He's trying to make it a perfect ball, and he doesn't need to do that. He's got the arm talent. He's got the strength. You just got to let it rip and trust the guys that they're going to be where they need to be. You know, hey, if they slip and fall, you can't control that, right? Control the controllables, put it where you need to put it, and let the dice fall where they may.
Seth, do you get any kind of a idea of where this team's sort of mindset is? Obviously, the 3 straight losses to close the season. In between, there was the TCU loss in those 3 losses that was obviously brutal. And now just trying to avoid, finishing under 500 and getting into the offseason after what was a pretty successful signing day yesterday. Do you have any kind of feel for where their mind is right now?
Yeah, I mean, I assume they're probably pretty pissed off, right? Had a lot of high expectations coming into the season. Obviously with the season they had last year, they wanted to build off of that, and they may have felt like they took a step back this year. Which, looking at it from a 50,000 foot view, it wasn't as pretty as we wanted it to be, obviously. But that's football these days. Just from a player standpoint, right? You have Air Force coming in that's trying to beat a Power 5 team. You better believe they're chomping at the bit to play this game, right? Play, hey, former Big 12 champs. They're coming in trying to make a statement for their conference, and Baylor better be ready, right? Because if we look back at games where we've lost the time of possession, the one that really sticks out to me is Kansas State, right? We got punched in the mouth. Air Force is going to try to do the same exact thing. I feel like they're going to have that same game plan. Obviously that's a triple option, right? The pass isn't going to be as relevant today, but they've seen the type of offense that we run, right? It's not a fast offense, right? It's going to be, I anticipate today to be roughly about a 2.5 hour football game.
I'm good with that.
With Air Force. Yeah. 2.5, maybe even less, right? But that's including halftime. So I anticipate to be a quick game. Every time Baylor gets the ball is going to be critical, right? Because you may only get it 2 or 3 times, a half with Air Force the way that they play this year. And so it's going to be a statement game. I feel like for Air Force, it's got to be a statement game. For Baylor, going into the offseason, like you mentioned, hey, we don't want to be under 500. Obviously had a good signing day this past week, and just got to build off it and go into offseason with your head held high. Hey, you finished out strong, left it all on the field, and then we got to get back to work.
Seth never experienced a 2.5 hour college football game.
No.
Hell no, that was the first half. That was the first half. I can't even imagine how long the games you played if they wouldn't have started the clock after the change. Not even if it's a first down, the ball goes out of bounds, set the ball, and the clock would keep starting. It used to be it didn't start until you snapped it. Seth, you mentioned the momentum or trying to get any kind of feel good into the offseason. Man, it was a year ago when they were preparing to play in the Sugar Bowl, the best season ever, 12-2. And we've all kind of discussed this before. In your opinion, did they blow an opportunity to take advantage of that? Because it does seem like they've kind of just gone neutral or backwards since.
That's a great question, David. I don't think they blew the opportunity, right? Looking back, we lost a lot of guys, a lot of key playmakers. Several of those guys got drafted in the top 4 rounds. That just showed the type of athletes that we had on the field. And early in the season, there was really no identity, right? There wasn't really an identity up front, offensive line-wise. We didn't really know who the receivers were going to be. Our defense was just kind of question mark, right? Who's going to fill in for these guys? Who's going to fill in for the back 5 that we had that were just freaking studs, the front 7 that we had. And I feel like, throughout the season, they slowly started to, grow on that and have that opportunity to make a statement, make a place for their name in history for Baylor. And I think they capitalized on it. Now, obviously not as best, but, a lot of those guys didn't have very many stats, right? It's just they came in, they did what they could. The next year, obviously is going to be a very critical year for, I think, the entire coaching staff, let alone the players, right? This transfer portal has completely just demolished any form of, in my opinion, any form of reliability on your team, right? On your players, regardless if you have, a 12-win season or not, I mean, guys are going to leave just because they think they have a better opportunity elsewhere, there's more money or whatever it is. But to go back to your question, the opportunity, I don't think they blew it. I think, we fumbled it a few times, obviously, but not to say it was a setback year or anything like that. Obviously, expectations were really high, and I think the team did, as best they could with what they were given, with the experience and the type of role that the team needed to play this year.
Seth Russell, former Baylor quarterback, with us on 365 Sports at the Armed Forces Bowl that kicks off in a little over 3 hours, a little less than 3 hours here at Amon Carter Stadium.
Seth, you brought up the transfer portal. I mean, it would have been really interesting to see what would have been thrown at you, at Bryce, at others, as you all were patiently waiting your turns. I mean, we can play what if, but, I mean, who really knows? It certainly y'all would have gotten some attention. But what do you think about just seeing guys moving left and right, moving in conference, and especially the quarterbacks and how key they are and how major they are in the entire transfer portal picture?
Yeah, I can't stand it, man. I mean, it's just, like I said, it's completely destroyed the integrity of the game, in my opinion. Now, I think of it as this end, right? This year, it's so extreme to the extent of it's just like almost like, is this really happening? I mean, is this real? Like, is there really 25 people, 30 people in the transfer portal from one team? Like, that can't be real. But then I look back, okay, this is something new. It's fresh, right? People are going to extort it as much as they can because they think there's better opportunity elsewhere. And then I think back to whenever they initiated the targeting rule, right? I think that was 2014, 2015 when they really, put a big harp on it where, hey, every tackle was targeting, right? Mm-hmm. Every tackle was targeting, reviewed, and then over year after year, they kept reviewing it, refining it. Now it's to a point where I feel like it's really at a good place to where it's not targeting every play, right? They review it to make sure they've changed some of the rules. I think that's how they're going to move with this NIL stuff with the transfer portal. Just right now we're seeing the extremes of the extremes, and I don't like it one bit because, like I said earlier, you could have a solid team. I mean, guys that you've played with for 2 or 3 years, and they get into a tiff with their coach because they're, entitled to something, and they want to leave. And it tears apart a team because you feel like you can't really build that trust factor. Because I mean, for example, Alabama. I mean, they just missed the playoffs. They have 20 plus people in the portal. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, they put out some of the top NFL athletes every year, and people are leaving for what reason, right? And so I don't know. If you can't tell, I don't like it, but I think it's a great opportunity. Let's say, hey, you're a 4 or 5 year guy and you still haven't got the chance to play and you want to go somewhere you can play, then absolutely, right? I mean, that's what we all want. That's what every player wants, is just the opportunity to play. But if you're your first year in and you're a freshman and you haven't really earned your stripe and you haven't gotten on the field and you're frustrated and you leave, I mean, that's, immaturity at most, in my opinion. But not much I can say about it. Not much I can do about it, but that's where my opinion is on it right now.
Seth, when Coach Briles had a room full of talent at quarterback, from RG3 to Nick to you to Bryce Petty, and then eventually it was Jarrett Stidham, among others, would this test how patient people were during that time? Because it would have been different, because I know Bryce waited 1,300 and some days. You had to wait for your turn. And it was unbelievable. First of all, he knew how to find quarterbacks, and he had a bunch of them. But everybody also was patient across the board. How do you think that would have gone back then?
Well, I mean, it wasn't even a factor. And so it's just saying the what if.
Yeah. I
mean, if that was even an option on the table, I'm sure everybody would be thinking about it. I mean, the only option we had as a transfer was you transfer either out of conference or you transfer down. If you transfer out of conference across the table, right, you lose a year of eligibility. So that made you double, think twice about it. Okay, if I transfer out, I've already used my red shirt. I'm 2 years in. Well, now if you lose another year unless I go down, right, down a conference. And so it just, there was never a thought in my mind of leaving to go somewhere else for a different opportunity. But I mean, obviously, absolutely. I mean, if that was on the table, everybody would be thinking about it. I mean, especially
Sure.
you mentioned 1,300 days or whatever for Bryce. I mean, that's a long time to wait. Especially whenever you think you're good and you can play immediately elsewhere. I mean, that's pretty tempting, right? I mean, we're all human. We all have that selfish nature in mind, and we all feel like we're the best in the. I mean, I definitely felt like I was the best in the meeting room, but maybe I wasn't, right? And I think it humbles you, right, to wait. But now it's just, hey, we got it at our fingertips. We can go wherever we want, whenever we want. We have no repercussions. Maybe the repercussion is, hey, we enter the portal and we don't get picked up anywhere. Now we don't have anywhere to go, right? We haven't seen that play out yet. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fallout at the end of, going into this next spring semester. When these players have entered the portal, they don't go anywhere, right? What ends up happening, right? They go back home, they drop out of school,
yep.
They lost their scholarship, whatever it is. And I think it's just the stigma around, there's, greener, the grass is always greener. Not necessarily, 90% of the time it's probably not. But, not to get on a tangent or go down any rabbit holes. If that opportunity was there in the past, definitely probably we would have been thinking about it at some capacity, which then plays into, hey, we don't have our full buy-in to our team and our university.
Seth, Blake Shapen sitting in that quarterback room basically by himself. I know there's a transfer that's there as well, and maybe a couple of walk-ons or whatever. Can you imagine them hitting the spring drills without at least one, if not maybe two, transfer quarterbacks on the depth chart?
Yeah, it'd be tough. It'd be really tough. Looking at the type of offense that we run, it's not a gunslinger friendly offense, right? Hey, it's more methodical. It's very controlled. They establish a line of scrimmage, hand the ball off. And so, I could see some guys coming in that maybe weren't highly touted or whatever that looks like. I wasn't highly touted. I think I turned out okay. Because I was in the right system. It's a system that'll fit certain quarterbacks. And if Shapen doesn't have one or two or maybe three guys in there with him, it's going to be tough, right? Because that competition level drops. And that's all you want as a quarterback. You want to be pushed. You want to be competitive. You don't want anything. At least myself, I didn't want anything given to me, right? I wanted guys behind me that were better than me, making me better every day. And so, that'll be a lot of pressure that the coaching staff has on them right now. I know they're probably busting their tail trying to pick up some guys, at least that fit their system. Obviously, we lost some good ones for silly reasons, right? I think we should have kept those guys, but, it is what it is. But going into spring, we got to have some more just competition, if anything, in that quarterback room.
It is always refreshing to have your opinion and experience you bring to the table. Everyone in the chat room appreciates it. We appreciate it. Those listening and watching. Seth, it's great to hear from you. Merry Christmas to you and also Happy New Year, and we'll talk to you again soon, I hope.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to everyone out there. Stay safe, and let's get a dub today for Big Baylor Nation.
That's Seth Russell with us, 365 Sports. We're at Amon Carter Stadium, the Armed Forces Bowl. We'll take you up until 4:30 with our show and then change course and get into more of the pregame itself, including comments from Baylor football coach Dave Aranda. I put up on the a Twitter feed that is now -5 wind chill. And thank God we're in the press box in a radio suite, and it's nice and cozy and warm. And Heavenly just put up a GIF, see you in hell. That's
-5 might be the attendance when all is said and done. I don't know how that's possible, but seriously, I think folks, who are making it out here,
God bless
kudos
them.
to you.
Yeah.
And those who make it through, man, hats off to you. You're a true super fan because it's going to be super cold, super windy, and hopefully just some of the moisture stays away. But this is not the Boca Raton Bowl. This is not playing in the the Superdome last year. This is a whole different animal, although somewhat familiar territory. So this is what happens when you play on December 22nd and you play outdoors and you play in a state that you can't really ever predict the weather like Texas. So just so happened to just yesterday just flip a switch basically, and here we are. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, emo. Of course, that's the slang or the hashtag for K-State. See you in hell with C, the letter C and U.
Every man's a wildcat.
I absolutely, every man's a wildcat. I absolutely deserve that. What a horrible thing for me to put up on Twitter. We had to walk about 50 to 100 yards from the car to where we entered.
You had to walk about 50 to 100 yards. Jacob and I had to walk about, 500 yards. I mean, it was a long way.
Craig, how far did you go?
No, we're not in lot 2. I would do awful things. I would do awful things that would shame my family to be in lot 2. You have no idea what I would give to be in lot 2. I would let you shoot me in the face if I could be in lot 2. It was so cold.
You want to walk down to my car in lot 2?
Yeah.
Where did you park, Craig?
I think in probably the same spot as Paul, in the parking garage.
Yeah.
It's a little bit further. It's not like terrible. It's not what I remember the last time we were here, when it seemed like there was a super long walk to get to the booth.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite that, but it's cold enough that it doesn't matter really how far away you are. I mean, that, if it's 100 yards or more, then you're going to have a burnt feeling face like I did walking in, and if you don't have gloves, you're going to be, up a creek.
The also thing that made it worse was Jacob and I were dragging all of the gear.
Well, I know this, and I mean it. Whoever's at this game, God bless every one of them. Air Force fan, someone who just wants to catch the game, had tickets, and then also the Baylor fans who are on their way, who are here as well. So it is freezing. It is 5 degrees, -5 wind chill here at Amon Carter Stadium. This happens in Dallas about once every other bowl season, it seems like to me. All right, when we come back, more to get to. A couple other bowl notes, some other notes in college football today. The chat room. Your thoughts the day after National Signing Day. I see there's still a lot of, like, for example, Paxton talking about UT's class, and a lot of people responding to Paxton who said, we're starting to get those kind of talent like the SEC, Alabama, Georgia. Texas has always been in the top 5, haven't they?
I have always seen them in the top 5. I mean, and I've been following recruiting since probably 2000-ish, 2001. Yeah. And I mean, like, one of my first recruiting memories was the whole Ryan Perilou, Fred Rouse, was it Jermichael Finley? Was that the triumvirate there? And I remember Texas was super hot on those guys and was actually at one point expecting to land all those guys. And then with Perilou, I think they were all signing day decisions, weren't they? Fred Rouse went to FSU. Yeah. Didn't do much there. Ryan Perilou went to LSU. And then Jermichael, I believe that it was a Jermichael Finley or was it Martellus Bennett? It had to be Martellus Bennett because Jermichael went to Texas. I always flip those guys, but Martellus then went to A&M. I believe I know it was Perilou and Rouse. Somebody can fill in that third spot, but Texas thought they might get that trio. I think they whiffed on all of them, unless I'm misremembering, and that's one of my first memories, and that was like a brutal day for them. But the 20 years since, I mean, more often than not, they're a top 5 recruiting class, if not number 1. So. Yeah.
Paxton, I'm going to tell you this right now. I heart you. I think you're one of our best people. I really do. But you just said they haven't been in the top 3 nationally since 2019. That was 3 years ago. That means that those guys would be seniors right now. You should be reaping the benefits of a 3-year top 3 nationally class. The problem isn't with them getting in the top 5. And look, the difference between, honestly, 1 and 2 are usually kind of a little bit above, but between 3 and 8 is all splitting. You're kind of splitting hairs most years. So if you're in the top 10, you're fine. You have enough talent to win. Texas's problem is not getting the groceries. They just don't know how to cook. They can go to the store. They just put it in the fridge and look at it and go, I don't know what to make. That's been their problem.
I'll say a few other things. Okay, I did look it back up, and it was that the 05 class? I thought it was earlier than that, but it was Martellus Bennett. So it was Perilou, Rouse, and Martellus Bennett from that class. That's one of my first memories of following recruiting, but I started following a little bit before that. I think, Paul, that's been true. I'm giving Sark the benefit of the doubt on the development side. I don't think that they developed really well. And I said that before this season. I had a number of Texas fans that, call me every name in the book or getting mad about that. And it's like, I mean, look at the NFL draft. And they're like, well, look at Sam Ehlinger. Okay, one guy out of
or Cosmos or
yeah, it's like, okay, you gave me 2 names out of the 50 that they've signed in the last 2 years. I mean, sorry, but I'm sorry that I have higher expectations for the school than you do when it comes to development and things like that. And I think all you have to do is look at the draft. But I do think now speaking on this group and what Sark is doing, I think we're possibly seeing the turning of the corner in that regard. I mean, Bijan was destined to be where he is anyways, but I do think that they've done a good job of constructing the roster. They were always going to be somebody that benefited greatly from the new NIL and transfer rules, and they have. And so, yeah, I mean, I think they're in a really good spot right now. So I understand the positivity. I just don't necessarily agree that, now they're getting those level of guys. I think they have been, but I think there's just a different feel, a different development, and a different pathway that they're on. But there's every reason to be excited. Don't get me wrong. They're in a good place right now.
They did have for them, incredibly low number of a team ranking in 2021. They were 15th. That's the exception. Again, sure. In 2020, they were 8th, and then they were 15th. That right there, those two combined years of being where they were is probably the two highest level numbers combined ever that I can remember. And by the way, good luck. They've been 3 a lot. They've been 1 or 2. And this year they had a hell of a run, and they also last year, remember, late had that surge with the offensive linemen. Good for them. Good luck, and they're going to need that. Everybody does. But if you look at the top 10 this year, compared to the top 10 last year, compared to the top 10 5 years ago, there's probably 7 teams that are a common denominator with somebody that an exception. But it was a hell of a good class, great class, and we'll see what happens with them going forward, along with Oklahoma, strong, and then again today, then actually picking up Peyton Bowen. All right, when we come back, it's almost 4 o'clock. Again, we have a lot of people here today to cover this Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Appreciate Drew Harris for all the hospitality. We would have been out on the concourse. Normal circumstances, he found us a radio suite with Paul Catalina back and forth. So thank you to Drew and also the folks here at Amon Carter.
I'm gonna tell you right now, y'all would have been. I don't know about any of us doing the pregame in these. I'm not trying to be overly dramatic, but if you're here, it's super cold, and I don't think we were gonna make it a 3-hour show out in this weather. No way.
I watched that Miami Buffalo game last week, and poor Steve Smith looked like he was about to chase Ralphie Parker and flick around in the Christmas story with that hat on. He was miserable. And I thought about the email, like when I first emailed Drew, he was like, yeah, there's a great area outside. I knew he was probably going to put us out here. And it's a beautiful wide open area. I was like, yeah, that's great. We can do that if the weather permits. And then I checked, as soon as the 10-day forecast came out, I wrote to him, I said, hey, and then it was only supposed to be 39. I'm like, hey, let's just be inside, because if it gets windy, it may not be great.
Or wet.
Yeah, wet. Let's just be inside. We'll figure it out. And then today I called him, and he's like, I can get you outside if you want. I was like, nope. No, absolutely not.
No,
By the way, Texas was the 25th according to Rivals back in 2017. So they have had a few of those double digits in 10th back in 2015. So for the most part, they're always in the top 10, and they're starting to get that kind of talent again. And now can they get those who are supposed to be elite to even be better, and the ones who are maybe the 3 or 4 stars to be really, really good once they get on campus? Baylor, in the end,
I'm not trying to dull your shine, Peyton. I didn't want to drag it down, but you should be excited. I didn't realize they were 25th at one point.
25th back in 2017.
Yeah. They just always strike me as a top 3 to top 5, if not, years and years ago, number 1s pretty regularly. So, I can see where there's room for improvement. And they're shooting up, and hopefully for Texas fans, staying in that sweet spot of the top 5 where they can sit. And if you sit there long enough, like to your point with Georgia and Alabama, you accumulate, no matter what you lose in the portal or attrition wise or to the draft, you just keep popping those classes like that, and you're bound to be filled with a team full of studs. So they certainly appear to have some.
And you also have TCU playing in the college football semifinals, and I would doubt anything in the last few years has been a top 10 class.
No.
It's how you also cultivate and what kind of mixture there might be. Baylor ended up, I think, in the top 30 despite losing their blue chip of the blue chips that they signed in Austin Novosad to Oregon. All right, tomorrow, one quick note. Eric Morris, the new coach at North Texas. G.J. Kinney, the new head coach at Texas State, will be a part of our show, and possibly a couple of other nuggets for that. Tomorrow, Garrett Ross and I will fly solo and do the show from 3 until 6. This is 365 Sports.
Let
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties or time with the family, with various specials available while supplies last in store or ordering by phone, including 8 to 10 pound half spiral hams at $4.15 a pound, 12-pound pit hams at $4.35 a pound, 8 to 22-pound bone-in hams for $3.40 a pound, 14 to 16-pound whole raw turkeys at $2.85 a pound, and $4.80 a pound for 9 to 12-pound whole smoked turkeys, 6 to 8-pound mini pit hams for $5.99 a pound. Limit 4 of each item per customer. Call in advance to ensure availability or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Waco Custom Marketplace, your full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Inside Amon Carter Stadium, the Lockheed Armed Forces Bowl, Air Force in Baylor. I just had a text, so maybe on the chat room, about our predicted game, and we will do that at some point near the end of the pregame show like we always do. We're on 4:30 to 6 for the pregame, so about 5:55-ish will be that. But we'll see. We'll have the predictions on that. It's hard. That's why the bowl games, to me, are always sometimes difficult in itself. And now you have opt-outs and players getting ready for the draft. Or you have, like, for example, Clark Barrington, who signed with Baylor, just last week played for Brigham Young against SMU in a bowl game.
Yeah, it is kind of wild how fast it goes. And
now he's not playing tonight. He's not there. Yeah, he's going to be next semester. But it's so fluid. And I just brought this up to you guys during the break. I wasn't here yesterday. I wasn't on the show in the studio yesterday. But Jimbo Fisher's quote about NIL and tampering, and I was like, okay, isn't he the one that got mad at Saban for suggesting paying players? And now you're starting to see some of the coaches who have benefited, or at least thought they would benefit from the NIL, now wondering about it. And I don't know where it's going. I'm not complaining about it. I just don't see where this ends.
Yeah. Now, to Jimbo Fisher's credit, like there may be lines that coaches won't cross, and that, like, why does he need to go get somebody off of somebody else's roster if you can just get them there beforehand?
Well,
right?
he needs to this year.
Well, he does this year, but they've never been that active in the portal because Jimbo Fisher's a little old school and doesn't quite. And they'll be more in the portal this year than they have been. But I'm not. Again, he doesn't need me to stick up for him. But I'm just saying that I do wonder is what's the group of coaches that have the line they won't cross of calling somebody that's already on somebody's roster and not in the portal, and who are the coaches that are doing that? Who are the people that are facilitating that? And sometimes, look, it may not even be coaches doing it. It might just be big time alumni that call, and then all of a sudden a guy gets in a portal and goes, "Hey, I'm coming to your school," and the coach is like, "Well, that's great, I guess." And you don't find out till later what happened. So there's a lot of different scenarios that would feed that beast of tampering. And so I do wonder, who lives in that, do anything, call anybody thing, and then who still has that line they won't cross of, look, I'll wait till they're in the portal before I call them.
Yeah, I mean, Lane Kiffin responded. He had a little emoji of facepalm emoji, basically. So I think that speaks volumes without really saying too much, because I think we all feel like Jimbo Fisher's talking out of one side of his mouth and acting in a different way than what he's talking about. Because there's no doubt that Texas A&M has benefited from the new rules. Paul, you're a diehard, and I think you would agree with that.
Oh yeah,
it's not. And the thing is like people get so defensive when you talk about certain fan bases or certain teams, and you say they're like Oregon yesterday. Like, remember everybody started walking on eggshells about how to talk about, they bought their class. I mean, they did. It's, what are we scared of saying it for? It's true. It's true. You don't flip guys like they did. I mean, in some ways you could have flipped a couple of them. Well, you're flipping like 5 of them, or, whatever the final number was. Maybe that was just good recruiting. But in the NIL era, I'm going to default and think that, yeah, there was good recruiting plus the benefits of this new era. And I'm not judging. I'm not saying that Dan Lanning's a bad coach or that he can't really recruit, or anything like that. But people get super defensive about it. And it's weird because it is basically legal. And it's not the way it's supposed to be. And Jimbo Fisher is right on that account, that it's not name, image, likeness the way that it's supposed to be. It is simply pay for play. He is right about that. And we all knew this was coming. We all knew this when these rules were passed. Some of us complained about it. And we were told that we don't care about kids, or that we, you don't want the players that, and no. And people tried to distract the argument with those false arguments. I at least always felt like this was where we were going to end up. And I think most people did. I mean, it was inevitable. And college football is by far the dirtiest game. And it was before NIL. I mean, you think about some of Barry Switzer's old recruiting stories and the things that he's talked about, and just things that if you followed college football long enough, you're bound to have a team that's got some wild recruiting story that, if you look back on it now, it's probably against the rules in some ways, or payment, or whatever it may have been. So this isn't new. It's just new only in that it's so exposed. And now you don't have to hide it. You can brag about it without giving every detail, such as the amount that you gave. But everybody kind of knows the deal. And I'm sure it's frustrating even for the big boys with big checkbooks, because they don't win every battle. No matter if they throw 7 figures on it, that's still not good enough for some guys. And so, yeah, I think it's frustrating even for the halves. But that's what you allowed to happen. That's what the NCAA allowed to happen. And everybody got fat on big coaching contracts and big facilities and rainbow-colored waterfalls. And the whole time, players weren't getting anything other than their stipend and some free merchandise. And I get, along with the free education, that adds up into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. But Bryce Young's worth more than hundreds of thousands of dollars, and several dozens of guys are worth more than just that amount, given what they contributed. So I agree. It's a mess. It's the wild, wild west. And I don't want to say that phrase anymore, but it's the one that just best sums it up. It very much is that, but it was a scenario entirely created by the people in charge of college football, so they have nobody to blame but themselves. And now they can either try and attempt to do something about it, but I don't see how, because the government doesn't seem like they're really too worried about this. They don't seem like they're in a big hurry to fix anything. So
not sure they should be.
We
got plenty of things to be worried about.
Far more important things to worry about with this country. So, I mean, it is what it is. I don't buy for 1 second that Jimbo Fisher's not benefiting off of it, but the coaches, had their opportunities and had, various turning points with the NCAA to try and do something about it. And they ultimately sat on their hands and kept, stacking money in their accounts until the money started to lessen a little bit because some of it was going to the people that weren't getting it before. And now we have a huge problem with it. And, everybody saw this coming.
Yeah. Look, there are two things I want to mention here. I agree with you. I don't like the government getting involved in anything, but I think we're at a point where they kind of have to, if you want any kind of substantial
change. Why can't
change.
Just the people that lead college athletics?
Well,
why can't
it gets into the legal system?
Because
and then
that's the guy. Because
you need the government to establish rules to almost force it that way. Otherwise, there's no way to stop it.
Yeah. So the government's job is to be the referee. They're not supposed to be the player in the game. That's where our government gets over their skis, is where they're the player in the game, but their job is to be the referee. And so that's what they need to do here. They don't do their job in a lot of respects, not just college athletics. So it's not surprising that they're going to put this off, because everything now is not about what really gets done. It's just about how long they can keep their jobs. That's all they want to do, is keep the job. They don't really want to work. So I really don't think, if you look at the grand scheme of things of what they do and don't do, if you threw one more thing on their plate, it would seem like that much. It feels like a lot to us because we don't really get the truth from the government. We don't get any kind of straight thing. It's just, this side is my side, that side is your side, and then we'd like to keep our jobs, and these, that's how it is. So I do think it's going to have to be that way. I get it. The government doesn't run everything great, but they have to do something here, because you're talking about 50 different states with 50 different rules and all these different things that they passed. There has to be something that they do to regulate it, because that's their job, to regulate things. On the other end of it, if you are the NIL thing has turned into the every time a school that had a bad thing happen, oh, your school has bad guys there, they let criminals in, something bad's going to happen to you. And so if you are saying right now, well, you only got that guy because of NIL. Well, if your school isn't spending NIL and they're up on this hill of chastity, well, they're stupid. Yeah, that's stupid. So
speaking of that, there was after the Novosad story on Wednesday morning, there was a lengthy, if you're a member of the premium section of Sikkim365.com, there was 6 to 8 paragraphs. It's long, from somebody that's a part of an NIL group that involves those who are supporters and donors of Baylor. And it's long. And it's probably a little bit too confusing for most of you, maybe me for sure. But it was interesting what he was saying about what they're trying to do, because there was a lot of Baylor's either got to get in the game or they got to, they're going to be irrelevant. And he was trying to explain, or whoever it was trying to explain where they are behind the scenes. And it was more clarity with that, although a lot of work to be done.
There's some good, I'm seeing some good responses on the chat from Manuel. Shout out to you and Clint as well. And you can decide how to divvy those up. But yeah, Lorenzo, I saw that you responded to him. Lorenzo said, sorry, fellas, you can't have calling players, telling them to jump in the portal for $5 million. Those coaches should be terminated, or schools should face penalties. I agree with that. I'm not rooting for it. I don't want guys getting tampered with. I feel like once they sign, they should be signed. And then, if there's the decision to transfer and enter the portal, then okay, approach them. I don't agree with, and I don't like the fact that guys are on rosters preparing for a bowl game, let's say, and Coach A is, DMing them or sending them a Snapchat saying that, yeah, hey, if you get into the portal right now, we've got $2.5 million over 3 years, or, whatever the numbers are. We don't really quite know exactly what the numbers are. We have an idea. No, I agree with that. I mean, that truly is the Wild Wild West in the worst kind of way. And that's not how the sport should work. No other sports work that way. And that's not the type of uniqueness that college football needs to pride itself on. They have enough uniqueness to be its own kind of thing that we all obviously love very much. But the dirtiness of, contacting guys who are on scholarship at another place and tempting or luring them into the portal and all that, I don't agree with it at all. But that's just, I guess my point is that we knew that was coming. We knew that was going to happen. Everybody's, no, this is all about just the players getting paid. We knew that was going to happen because it's college football, and everybody's trying to get the the advantages, and you can when you can convince a guy to go jump in the portal, and you can buy him. And so that's what we're seeing left and right. And nobody is going to be willing. As many Jeff Traylors as want to say anything. Did Jeff Traylor follow that up with who he was talking about?
No,
he did not. And so until we get to that point, then it's just going to remain that way. And people are going to get some social media love and a bunch of retweets for saying that it's dirty and crooked. But until somebody actually says, this guy did this, and then there's an actual response from the people that can change things, it's going to be like this, and it's only going to get crazier.
I wonder what's going to happen here. It's an open, I don't want, God, should I say open border? When it comes to college athletics, everything is like a free-for-all, open market. And usually what happens with something like this, and I'm not an historian like you or a government expert like anybody, but you open it, it's like everything's a free-for-all. And then somehow or another, even those who are more involved in the free-for-all than anyone else start to realize, well, maybe this isn't the best for us, because they see what's happened at other schools or what happens with them, and then you kind of come to a medium.
Well, it's not a free-for-all. It's millions. It's millions being spent, but I understand your point,
It is like a bazaar, though. Like, that's the what I would consider the shopping.
So I think it's going to end up leveling off at some point.
Yeah.
Government or not.
Yeah. It will. Like, the thing is like, who do you rely on to do that first? And what triggers it? We go through cycles in this country of we've never quite figured out like how to regulate things to the proper level. Like we either do it way too much or not at all. So like the water's too dirty or you can't turn the faucet on. Like that's the problem. So when it comes to college athletics, which is a far less serious issue than like water quality or like emissions or how cars or safety things happen, then you can't trust, because right now there's nothing at all, right? There's everything all over the place. And then if they do make rules, then they're going to have to go back and be like, well, you guys kind of maybe overstepped here. And now we've got to dial this back because now we're confused.
Okay. All right. It's a great conversation. It's not going to end. It's a part of our future into it. It is. It's part of covering college athletics. Do we need a break here?
No,
or up until okay. All right.
I mean, I'll say this. There are definite benefits to this. There are absolutely benefits to the NIL, but I do agree in terms of the contacting guys who are already on scholarship and already somewhere else before they're ever in the portal or luring them into the portal. That should absolutely be out of bounds. There are some people that want absolutely no rules, and coaches don't have any rules. No, coaches do have some rules. Like there is a buyout in their contract. There are certain things, and like that just gets glossed over because the people that are talking the loudest are the people that absolutely are thriving off of this in some form or fashion. And so be careful of who's sending the message when you start to have somebody be like, oh no, granted a coach can leave basically whenever he wants to, but there is still a penalty for that given how his contract's set up. So I think the people that are arguing for a little bit of legislation or regulation are just saying just have something where you're offset. Just have it where there's just a routine and like you said, the conversation is going to keep going on, but I do think there are absolutely some benefits to it. I just don't like the tampering part of it, but and without the government intervening or something along those lines, that's just going to be a part of the deal and a part of covering college football. So
D.F. Ost, John Joe, Roy Melton, Paxton, Lorenzo, Jack, Billy Bob, Frankie, and others. That's just at the bottom of what we have with the chat room with, again, hey, hit the like button if you haven't done that. If you like what we saw, like Emmanuel just mentioned a minute ago, he's been watching us and listening to us and following us throughout the football season, and just subscribe. We'd appreciate that. We are on the verge of getting to 27,000. We started all this in April 6th of 2020, and you have been a part of the growth of what we are every single day, and we appreciate you being here today. We are live at Amon Carter Stadium. It is the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Air Force and Baylor kickoff just after 6:30, and we're about to hit our pregame show here in just a moment. I've mentioned Jacob, Jack, and Emery. Back at our studios in Waco, in the comfy confines just down the road from McLean Stadium, is Garrett Ross, who's running this remotely, and we appreciate what Garrett's doing as well, and we appreciate him being a part of what we're doing from everywhere, from Waco to Fort Worth and in between. I've got to do this before we take our break here. We got a little bit more time. The wind chill factor, see if it goes down. 14 degrees. Oh, it's gone up from 5 degrees below zero wind chill to 4. So the heat wave is hit.
I'm going to put some shorts on then. I can take this jacket off.
I'm trying to think of the coldest the Texas-Baylor game in 2013 pregame, the big, huge corporate tent, Doug Furch from the Baylor Alumni Network, they call themselves something different now, but they had those country club lamps that you have in the back of a patio area outside, the heat lamps, and there were like 20 of them in there, and we did the show that morning from inside that tent. Thank God we were at least somewhat covered up.
Yeah, I told Jacob when we were walking in, the last time I had the feeling of it being this cold was I went to the game, covered the game when we were the Super Bowl in Minneapolis, and when you walked out of, they had a plan that went awry. You're supposed to, when they took the shuttle buses to the stadium, walk out of the bus and just walk right into the tent where it was warm, but the scanning wasn't going that fast, so there was about a 20-minute wait outside, and I'd always felt like scarves were kind of like a decorative thing because I grew up, where you don't need one ever. And then like I saw people with like, oh, they're putting it over their face. That's what a scarf is for. Then I realized I need to get a scarf because I was miserable.
Yeah, no, it's any way you could cover whatever you have, you should do it. Rich Boone, thank you for this one. And Daniel, you're right. I'll go to Daniel's first, then Rich. Kicking games should be fun. When you have winds like this, which is a gale force, like 30 miles an hour, and it usually is coming from one direction, the way when we walked into the tunnel or the loading dock, there's going to be a bad snap on a punt, or there's going to be a muffed punt because of the misjudging the wind, or it's going to be a punt that goes 13 yards and hits somebody in the butt who doesn't know where the punt is. That's probably going to happen today. Also, Rich Boone, thank you for this one. You all are a textbook example of preparation meets opportunity. Found you in 2020 during the Texas-Oklahoma departure to the SEC, rumors, announcement, and haven't left. Thank you very much. We've been fortunate for some of the stories that have happened as well during the time we opened up this show in April of 2020.
Yeah, and anybody that hits like or subscribe, I mean, we don't call on it. I think you probably called on it twice today, and that's more than we've done in probably like any given show in a year. I mean, we don't try to, beg. People have their taste, and if you like college football, ultimately we hit on something that you enjoy about college football, and we dabble in some other stuff from time to time, but we're not some big corporation. Don't have like huge backing, except for just some great people that aren't always on camera. So to our founders, we do appreciate them, but this is very grassroots compared to some of the other type of similar shows you'd see. And so for those who have stuck with us or those joining us, yeah, we appreciate it.
I think one more note, there's been a couple of other games. Notre Dame and Houston in the Cotton Bowl. Joe Montana, remember, he was sick in the locker room, came out and won the game. It was brutal that day. When we come back, we will take from where we are with our regular show on 365 Sports to start our Baylor Game Day Live. This is 365 Sports.
If you're out looking for a great selection of new cars and trucks this holiday season, then shop Allen Samuels in Waco, because we have some of the best deals in Central Texas that will put you in a new vehicle and driving away with confidence. Save big during the Big Finish sales event this month on the new 2022 Chrysler 300 Touring L with total values up to $4,000, plus $500 bonus cash to first responders. Hurry in and wrap up some of the best deals of the year at Allen Samuels in Waco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
1, 2. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy, last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
Live from the heart of Baylor Bear Country, the most comprehensive pregame coverage. This is Game Day Live, powered by Sikkim 365 and KWTX
But tonight,
News
home
10.
for Air Force and Baylor in the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl here in Fort Worth on what is a bitter, frigid, and cold day as it's minus 4 degrees wind chill. Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. We've got a support group behind us with Jacob Wilson and also Emery Winter, Jack McKenzie, and Garrett Ross, among others, Levi Caraway. We're going to hear from Darby Brown momentarily from here at Amon Carter Stadium a couple of different times. It is cold, as you know what. It is. It is absolutely brutal. It will be interesting to see. The wind is at times 20 to 30 miles per hour, temperature around 14 degrees, and here we are. We're fortunate because we're inside the press box here. All right, Baylor football, all the expectations coming off their best year ever. Last year won the Big 12 for the third time. Last year won the Sugar Bowl, 12-2, best record ever. And then this year, the expectations, it has not gone as planned for Dave Aranda and his football team. Paul and Craig, they need some kind of oomph heading into the offseason. Obviously, a win, 7-6, 6-7. I think it's a big deal. I think a winning season trumps anything that's not.
Yeah, I think it's imperative that they win this game to get any kind of mojo going into the offseason. They absolutely have to win it. And this is going to come down, honestly, X and O wise, if you want to get into it. Like somebody asked me yesterday, like, what's the difference? Like, both these teams are going to have to run the ball. That's all Air Force does. But it's going to come down to, does Baylor want this as badly as Air Force does? And I think that's kind of the key to the game tonight. I hate that it's cliche, but that's what it's got to be.
Baylor's a more talented team. I don't think that you would argue that. I mean, they are a Big 12 team who's had much higher ranked recruiting classes and much greater success. Not this year, though. Air Force is a better team on paper. I do feel, though, there's still a talent edge. So I think that at their best equally, I think Baylor should be able to go get a win today. But are they going to be at their best? I mean, that's as much of a hit or miss as anything. in terms of the season, 1 week you think that they're going to perform pretty well and they don't. 1 week you think they're going to perform maybe not so hot and they're pretty good. And, so I don't know what to expect tonight, but I think with a little bit of a break, I would hope and expect to see a pretty sharp and focused team.
Well, and Air Force 9-3, Troy Calhoun is their head coach. They've had an incredible run of continuity. Ken Hatfield was their head coach, and then Fisher DeBerry was there forever and did an incredible job with their program. And then Troy Calhoun has been there for over a decade as well. They've had great continuity. There's a heck of a program with a lot of pride. They won against both Army and Navy. They won the Commander-in-Chief's trophy, which is a big deal because Army and Navy have pretty much been rolling with that the last several years. We will hear in this show from former Air Force quarterback, in fact, Beau Morgan. We'll hear from him. He quarterbacked, along with his brother Blaine, over a run that both of them were very successful. He'll talk about what it means to play for one of the military academies. We're now joined, though, by Darby Brown, KWTX, where we are right now with Game Day Live. And Darby, if there was ever a chance for you to not be on the field or somewhere enclosed, this would be the moment.
Yes, it would. You guys, there are people tailgating outside, and it is so cold out here. I've been trying to walk around, getting situated in the stadium, and I really can't feel my face. So it is going to be a cold one, and it's just going to get even colder. So it's just brutal.
So, Darby, I know you're an Arizonan. How are you dealing with this? I know you got a nice big fur coat on, but,
Yes. Yeah, I'm channeling the actual Baylor Bear today in this coat, and so hoping that it does the job. And so far, I'm doing okay. Except I wish my little sister once said she wished she had a boot for her face when we were in Chicago and it was really cold, and I'm feeling that right now. That it is definitely something I'm not used to, and I can't imagine a lot of the Baylor players are really used to playing in these temperatures as well.
So I see behind you, Darby, that the crowd hasn't filled in, and it might not tonight. I mean, given the weather and just, who knows how well everybody has traveled. But get any sense in, like, being around the tailgate, kind of the excitement level for some of the Baylor fans who have turned out for this one?
Yeah, I mean, I ran into Monterey Baldwin's mom out there in the parking lot, and she was really fired up for it. And just there were some other parents around, and so the loyal fans are here tailgating, and we're excited for it. I think, to your point, I think this might have been sold out, and now we'll see how many people actually fill these stands. But I think if they are willing to brave the cold, they'll be here. But it's not for the fair weather fans, that's for sure.
I'll tell you right now, though, you look great with all the what you have as far as what looks like it looks like you could be in Russia right now, the way you're dressed up.
You guys, I think I've never been to Russia, but it feels like it. It's really cold out here. No, it is brutal. The wind chill is really brutal. So I have hand warmers, and hopefully the guys are going to be able to. I know there's things you can do to be able to stay ready to play, but it's definitely going to be. They're going to be fighting two things tonight: the cold and Air Force, for sure.
All right. Well, let's do that. You have to get out of the conditions because you're going to come back with us hopefully in about an hour. But with the wind the way it is, there's going to be a mistake on a special teams, a punt return, a snap. Isn't that tonight, in your opinion, one of the keys to that? Because you're not going to see the ball in the air very often.
Yeah, no, I think limiting those mistakes would be crucial, and then just executing, keeping the ball on the ground game, and as I think Craig said, there's no doubt Baylor's the most talented group, the bigger group. They have the size advantage, so hopefully all of that combined, they'll be able to get the win here tonight. But yeah, it's going to be there's going to be some, as your point, we're going to see some mistakes, I think, for sure, or just not even mistakes. It's just battling the elements. It just is what it is. So you got to clean up for it in other parts.
You are a warrior for what you're doing, committed to what you do with the excellence. Darby, get back inside somewhere and get warm. And thank you so much for giving us a little bit of a feel of what it's like down on the stadium, on the field at Amon Carter Stadium. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, guys. See you guys in a little bit.
That is amazing. It's, again, -4 or so wind chill, and here she is right there. She had texted me earlier in the week because I was trying to find out, okay, what are we doing, she and Chris Williams, and she goes, I think we're going to probably be somewhere, we think, indoors. Nope. She's right there in the elements like she has, whether it's 95 degrees and warm as possible or on the field at Amon Carter Stadium. If Seth Russell said this to us earlier in the regular show that we do on 365 Sports, if you're going to have to play in a condition like this, if you're going to play, you might as well win, right?
Yeah.
you might as well win the game. It'll make it feel a little bit warmer if at least you're having success. Otherwise, if you get down by a couple of touchdowns, I can't even imagine the misery level index would probably double or triple.
Yeah, I think that, and that's when you start feeling it. But part of it is you keep moving around, it's better. The wind is the thing that's really going to be the temperature, in and of itself is bad enough, but the wind has not stopped and won't stop all night long. That's going to be the factor. That's what you're going to have to deal with, especially when you're not playing, when you're over there on the sideline, just waiting and waiting and waiting. It's going to be tough to deal with players and coaches, trainers, everybody in the elements tonight. So I'm curious to see how Baylor, especially since they're not from a place in the country that has this weather that often, and Air Force is, if that's a factor at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a factor. I think, it's going to be a factor. We're just talking about, throwing the football around and those types of things. But it is what it is. It's cold. Right. It's not getting warmer. The wind's not going to die down. It's not going to turn into daylight. All of a sudden, the sun's going to come peeking through the clouds as the day gets later. It's only going to get darker and colder and windier. And so it's ball game time. I mean, that's just as part of the deal. I think the fans will suffer from it more than the players should, except for, unless the fans are trying to also throw passes. But yeah, this is not ideal. It's not what you wanted out of your bowl setup, but it is where you found yourself. And if you're Baylor, you found yourself here because, quite frankly, you didn't play well enough or impress bowl officials enough during the course of the regular season. You have a final opportunity tonight with the roster that you've got to go out there and put on the best show that you can. And they can do that and feel the way that they felt after some of their wins this year, like against Texas Tech and Lubbock, for example, which is one of their brighter spots. Or they can do what they've done like the last 3 times we've seen them and find different ways to lose by either getting blown out or losing a game you shouldn't have lost and allowing your arch rival who plays in this very stadium to remain unbeaten and get into the college football playoff, or go down to Austin, make a few mistakes, and watch the Longhorns pull away from you. That's what we've seen, and the weather was fine in all those games. So go play, and if the weather has an effect and you miss a field goal because the wind blows it out and you lose by 2 or 1 or whatever, fine. But all I want to see is the team just go play a full football game. And they do that, then I'll be cool with that. Air Force, they've got good players too, but the weather doesn't need to be a factor in their minds.
This is the last game for anybody without eligibility, and who knows anymore what that is because of the COVID year among every, just the waivers that you get. But chunk of players, this is it for them. They're not playing again, and you'd think they'd want to also go out as much as they can with the best performance they can. You'll always remember it. You will always remember the last time you competed, whatever it might be, in a sports or athletic event. Billy Bob, so cold the video froze up. Yes, it did for a little bit. Also, someone mentioned that Darby Brown, the proud of her for what she did. We do appreciate her. That's incredible to be out on the field. Her job, and she did it for us, and we appreciate that with KWTX as well. Billy Bob, she's my hero for doing sideline updates. Oh, my God, stay warm, girl. Now, so thank you for that.
If she and Chris, who are going to do another couple updates throughout the show, want to come and do it from the press box, we've gotten the shot. We need to be the ones who send the guy out in the hurricane to be like, hey, Frank, how's it doing? It's
like Jim Cantor.
Yeah, it's a disgusting hell on earth out here, but thanks. I'm glad you're comfortable in the studio and safe.
Yeah, Daniel, by the way, I want to see a 75-yard field goal attempt tonight with the wind. And I think if you got it up high enough with a little trajectory, you could probably have one of those. Although I'm not sure if either one of those kickers has that capability. But it is, someone asks, is it swirling? No, it's straight across. I mean, straight. You see the American flag and the Texas flag. Might even be behind us. I don't think you could see that. They're straight across as if both of the flags are frozen the way that they are. R.A. Johns, any Baylor player sitting out to not get hurt. Apuika, their All-American candidate or All-American defensive or nose tackle, is not playing. He opted out. He's not playing in the game. A couple of players were sent home because of rules violations yesterday, over the last couple of days as well, including one of their defensive backs that plays a lot in Lorando Johnson. He is not with the team at this particular time. What type of offense does Air Force run? It's called the flex boat. It's got some triple option, I guess you could say, characteristics to it, but its actual scheme is flex boat. Craig?
Yes, Mark Milton's obviously also not playing in this game. He's also one of those that Dave Aranda mentioned yesterday, and yeah, there was Apuika and there was Mark Milton. Those guys are choosing not to play. I don't know about their level of, injury or protection or whatever. Apu is obviously getting ready for the NFL draft, and I'm not sure what Mark Milton has in mind. I'm sure a similar dream, but with Apu, it's a lot more of a sure thing and basically a guaranteed thing. It's just a matter of where he's going to fall in that. So I don't fault him for 1 second for not wanting to risk his NFL, pre-draft workouts when we've seen him go down multiple times this year and get back up ultimately. But he's a guy who's getting double teamed. He's getting triple team blocks, and it's dirty, nasty, cold outside, and it's a game. It's a stadium you played in last year in the regular season. So I don't think it's really, compared to what he has at stake. It's not a knock on him that he's decided not to play in this game by any stretch. Mark Milton, I'm not exactly sure, other than I guess he's just getting ready for whatever's next. And then, you mentioned who was the other suspension? It was Lorando Johnson and Khalil Keith at tackle. So those will matter. Apu's going to matter. Mark Milton's going to matter. So part of the deal with bowl season, and we'll see how they compensate for that.
Yeah, the biggest thing you wonder, look, the Snacks and Mark Milton are not going to have to, nobody in the defensive backfield is really going to have to cover passes. So you hope the guys are going to be in there for them are good tacklers and stay in their lanes. We had Beau Morgan. You'll hear from him later in the show. But one of the things he said when it comes to this triple option that they do at Air Force is that the thing that's great about the triple option is you're not trying to block 11 guys. You're trying to block 7 or 8 guys, and you're trying to make the 3 or 4 key players in the defense take themselves out of the play by what they're, by what you do fake wise, pulling guards and all the different things you do. So that's a key is, pretty much just keeping it in kind of a bubble around you when you're in the triple option. Almost like, you don't want to say prevent defense, but you're just trying to prevent them from, going way past you. You got to keep, contain and all that stuff, all those football things you heard over and over and over again. That's how they're going to have to stop Air Force.
Over under, how many passes does Air Force throw today?
3. I mean, and probably under 3 because of the wind. I mean, like now,
depending on where they are when they need with the wind behind them.
Yeah. So, and even still, sometimes with the wind behind you, that's not as great of an advantage as you can get.
All right. When we come back, we're going to get more into Air Force and also Baylor here at the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl, and also, by the way, have some graphics on the history between these two programs and the history of these two programs here at Amon Carter Stadium. This is Game Day Live, 365 Sports and KWTX.
Game Day Live on News 10 is sponsored locally by TFNB, your bank for life, Advanced Pain Care, and Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
We want people to know that we don't only care about the unborn, we care about those that have been born. And we believe that we bring hope, that we save lives, and that we transform families. My name is Lisa Chanot. I am the president of the Council for Life Central Texas Board. Our goal this year is to raise $150,000 so that we can continue to support agencies that share our mission.
An accident followed by chronic pain, it can be devastating.
I was in a firefighting accident and hurt my back real bad. My surgeon didn't want to complete the surgery. That's when I turned to Advanced Pain Care, and they've really kept me going.
We recommended a spinal cord stimulator for Mr. Johnson. Once you turn on the stimulator, the patient doesn't feel the chronic pain anymore.
The stimulator, I start seeing results immediately. You wake up and you're going, where'd the pain go?
Let us help you take back your life. Call us today. Advanced Pain Care, the pain stops here.
Hail damage to your roof can be costly to your home, so why not protect yourself now? Get your roof repaired or replaced by Central Texas's most trusted roofer, Centex Roof Systems. Our team will evaluate your damage and get you a quote fast so we can repair your roof quickly and efficiently. After the storm, call the name you can trust. Call Centex Roof Systems today for your quote or visit us online at centexrs.com. Your hometown roofer, Centex Roof Systems. God bless Texas.
We're now joined by Sam Bradshaw, S11, writes for the Sikkim365.com, and also has been with us throughout most of the year. Sam, thanks for your time. Paul just made this comment about the game with Air Force on Thursday. The one thing we know is that Air Force is not going to come in here any kind of just, okay, it's a bowl game. They will come in full throttle, focused, and wanting, of course, to play incredibly well.
Thanks for having me on. No question. You just hear some of the media availability from those Air Force guys. As soon as that bowl matchup was announced, you could just feel it. They want this game. They want this game bad. They're coming for it. Bears better be ready for a fight, because Air Force won't be the most talented team you play, but what they make you defend schematically is off the charts difficult. They're the most difficult offense schematically to defend, because they're the best flex bone offense in the nation this year. And their defense is a lot stronger than you typically see from a service academy. And it's going to be a handful. It's going to be cold, which is Air Force is used to. Baylor's not. It's going to be a situation where Baylor's got some guys they're used to having out there that are not out there. And, on the defensive side, Aranda's your defensive coordinator, but he's also trying to hire a new one. He's also trying to handle recruiting. He's also trying to hire a new safeties coach. So there's a lot going on that gives Air Force a bit more of an advantage than they would have if it was played in, say, October or something.
Sam, they are the best flexbone team in the country, and they run a lot of different looks out of that. They don't throw a lot, but they throw sometimes, and they make sure it's effective when they do. What's the scariest thing about them compared to what Baylor's strengths and weaknesses are on defense?
Well, the scariest thing with a defense like that, or with an offense like that, is there's so much to prepare for, and it's not just the coaches having a good plan. It's also just how many guys you have to have on the same page doing their job, even when it's mundane. When Aranda ran into Navy back in 2009, same Navy team that almost took down number 5 Ohio State at the Horseshoe and gave Missouri a sound beating. Aranda did a really good job stopping them, but one play, a defensive tackle decides to slant out of his gap, and they couldn't run down Ricky Dobbs right after that, and 50 yards later, it's a touchdown. That was 7 of the 17 points Aranda gave up in that game, but it just shows you can defend them very, very well all game, and then they just crease you because they stress you so much laterally. They stress you so much assignment-wise. But the thing about Air Force that's just nasty, it's not just the option. They are really good at zone. They're really good at trap. They'll throw 15 different forms of trap at you. They'll throw rocket tosses at you. They'll angle you, but they also get movement on their zone blocking. I've watched some of the film of them against Colorado, and admittedly, Colorado was a bit of a dumpster fire this year, but that's a Power 5 team, and they were pushing them back on zone runs. They were getting creases up the middle on zone and trap, and Brad Roberts was getting a field day. And it wasn't just inside. They hit him with the rocket toss, and Colorado had no answer. I mean, this is a team that'll punch you. They're good.
Sam, kind of drifting off topic a little bit, just not so much focusing on Air Force here, but, Aranda taking over as DC for this week, and then ultimately he'll go, find or finish off his defensive coordinator search. But, looking back now, how surprised or not surprised are you about the Ron Roberts change?
I'm very surprised based off Ron Roberts' reputation, not only as a schematic coach, but a long-time tenure as a head coach, long-time tenure with Aranda in that coaching tree, and then also just known within the coaching community as being a genuinely friendly guy and everything. So for it to be kind of a culture issue is a very big surprise, but I don't know enough about the exact details to comment any further than that, but I'm very surprised at it, to say the least. I expected with some of the issues you had in the secondary that they'd make a change with the safeties coach. But Roberts definitely surprised me.
On Ronnie Wheat, was he more moving on from him because of the secondary at safeties or because of special teams?
Special teams certainly didn't help him, and that certainly was a regression this year after losing Powledge. I don't pretend to know exactly everything that went into that decision, but I know Aranda's got quite the burden leading up to this bowl game. I'd feel a lot better about it if it was played after Christmas, like the other one that was in that flex pick for the bowl order for the Big 12. But, given enough time, I think Aranda can do a good job scheming these guys. He came out with a couple different plans in that game against Navy. He had one where it was a 4-down front, and they were two-gapping both guards with the defensive tackles, and then the defensive ends were two-gapping the offensive tackles, which really gave Navy triple options some fits. But what really got me is they went to like a 3-3-5, and the way they played their corners and the way they played their defensive ends, Navy couldn't get the triple going on them at all. I mean, it was almost like teaching tape watching them just cut them down. It was impressive to see.
Sam Bradshaw, S11 with us, SicEm365.com football analyst on 365 Sports.
Sam, do you expect to see Baylor attack this defense any differently than they would normally? I mean, would they throw the ball more, or are we going to see a game that's, because of the weather and the conditions, is mostly run on both sides?
I think it's going to be more run than they otherwise would be due to the weather. But I felt like Baylor's going to live and die with that for the most part anyway. I mean, I don't anticipate Air Force just giving you man coverage after man coverage. They'll do it situationally when they think they can get you off the field, but they also are aware if you did a 100-meter relay team for your secondary and the Baylor receivers, it's probably not going to go well for the Falcons. That's a lot of speed to give single coverage risk to a lot of time. I think, with Baylor, you're going to base out of that run game. You're built on reliable, violent offense, that wide zone, that frontside toss, and then a lot of the different counters that you have to those plays. So it was always going to be run. And this game probably has the lowest number of possessions in all of bowl season, especially with Army and Navy not playing anybody. This game is going to go by quick, which people in the stands will probably be happy with because it's going to be, 10, 20 degrees outside.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they're going to base out of the run, and they're going to make Air Force show that they can stop it. Wyoming was able to get some movement on them on the ground. And Wyoming is not some exceptional offense, but in the trenches, they were able to move this sound Air Force defense around.
Sam, what do you think the focus has been, or what would you assume the focus has been with Blake Shapen over the last 3-4 weeks?
I think obviously they're in the film room studying their opponent, but I think just settling them down, getting back to the basics, just mechanics, and then not trying to do too much, just focusing on do your job, do your 111. And I think a lot of the improvement we're going to see from him is going to come over the offseason. But, for the most part, even though the interceptions were up, a lot of those were tip drills. There were very few of those where I just was looking at it and going, all right, that guy just made a completely dumb decision. It was either late or it was high or something like that. But as far as the defense is giving me this, I'm going here, that part of it didn't worry me, if that makes sense. It's more just, can you be consistent with your mechanics so that your naturally accurate throwing ability comes to the forefront?
So low possessions. Brad Roberts is a force offensively. They got a pretty stingy defense. Just what are your kind of, in summation, your feelings on Baylor's chances here and kind of your expectations for this game?
I think Baylor is the better team and should win. Air Force does a good job of being a disruptive defense, but their total stats and a lot of just their raw statistical totals are really sound. But a lot of the offenses they've played have been pretty weak. I mean, when FCS Northern Iowa, a Boise State team that completely reshuffled their offense midseason, and Utah State, when those are the best three offenses you've played that aren't flex bone, you really haven't been tested. And against teams like Nevada, against teams like Wyoming, Colorado, Utah State, Boise State, teams that Baylor was able to move the ball on pretty successfully, like CCU, Texas State, and BYU, compared pretty evenly to Air Force. So I'm expecting Baylor's going to be able to move the ball on these guys pretty well. Obviously, the weather is going to make that a little tougher. So it really comes down to, can you stop that flex bone? And more importantly, can you stop Brad Roberts when they're not doing the flex bone? Because Colorado couldn't and several other teams couldn't.
Sam, thank you as always. Sam Bradshaw, S11, SicEm365.com football analyst with us.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott will invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533, Chuck Verno at 720 North 64th Street, Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC.
Did you know Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is open to the public? Next time you're in town for a Baylor athletic event or you're in town for tourism, take advantage of their day passes for $10 a piece or the weekend for $30. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers 40 group exercise classes, including indoor cycling and yoga, boot camp, and bar. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines, and a spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alec Bach, where you will be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, kids club, 16 tennis courts, and 8 pickleball courts, and youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons available. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit wacotennis.com or visit them next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Game Day Live on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, TFNB, Your Bank for Life, Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, Three Nations Brewing Company, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Edward Jones Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, and Bubba's 33.
Back inside Amon Carter Stadium, we're in one of the national broadcast booths. We are here. We appreciate Drew Harris for the great setup here. The hospitality has been fantastic from Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. In fact, one of the broadcasts, the national broadcast, Brian Estridge, who is the voice of TCU and the crew he normally works with doing the Frogs, who will be doing the game against Michigan, just stopped by our booth a minute ago. And he started his own YouTube channel covering TCU football, so it was great to see Brian. Here are some historical notes about Baylor and Air Force and between each other, bowl games and more, and Garrett has these to put up as we go. First of all, Baylor's bowl history, 27 appearances, counting today. They've been, the asterisks, 11 of the last 13 years they've been in a bowl game. The 2 years they weren't was the 1-11, the first year with Matt Rhule, following the coaching transition, and then, of course, 2020, the COVID year, when they were 2-7. Their first ever, their bowl record's 14-12. The first ever bowl game beat Wake Forest 20-8 in 1948, the Dixie Bowl. Their last year when they beat Ole Miss 21-7 at the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. So to discuss it, 14-12 bowl record for a school. Now, they went almost 2 decades without a bowl game, but for the most part, they've been successful when it comes to bowl games.
Also, when you consider that, for the longest time, there were less than 10 bowl games.
Yes.
So it wasn't like everybody got to go. You could have 9 wins and not go to a bowl game if you weren't aligned the right way. So, they have a pretty, it's pretty substantial that you get to 26 bowl games, especially when you do have a 16-year drought proud of only coming close one time. So that's pretty impressive that they've been able to keep the streak of the 11 of the last 13 as well, given where they did come from.
I'm just over here daydreaming about New Orleans, to be quite honest with you. The Sugar Bowl is a good deal if you get to go to it. And so, last year was a lot of fun. Hopefully people maximized that trip because this is a bit different weather-wise, conditions-wise on the field. Not playing in a dome today. It would have been a perfect day to do that. And just a drive up for most people or drive down versus a flight. But, I mean, Baylor's been pretty consistent in, reaching a bowl game now here, despite the 2 outlier years that obviously had great reasons for why they were not in bowl games because they were undergoing, a complete reconstruction basically with 2 brand new head coaches in both of those years. So I think that they've, found their footing, and this is not necessarily where they would want to be, but it is sure as heck a lot better than the alternative, which would have been to be sitting at home right now. Now, I know that might sound appetizing, and that's actually what a lot of Baylor fans will be doing tonight, watching the game at home to avoid this cold weather. But the possibilities of finishing 5-7 and not making a bowl game and the repercussions of that, I think would have been far worse than making some game. And so they got a great opportunity tonight against Air Force to go out and win a game in TCU Stadium. And I know people have joked about it, but truly they do not know how to beat TCU. So maybe this somehow shows them a way to take care of business when they have to go play them on the road the next time. They have a great opportunity tonight. There's going to be, a lot of college football fans watching. So go out on your best note.
All right. The other part of this is the Air Force Academy, the Falcons. This is their 29th bowl appearance. Their record almost similar. Baylor 14-12. The Falcons are 14-13-1. Their first bowl game, 1958, the Cotton Bowl, where they tied TCU, by the way, at 0-0 at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. And the last time was last year in the First Responder Bowl. They beat Louisville. It was pretty good last year, 31-28. Air Force has been now to 12 bowl appearances in the 16 years that Troy Calhoun has been the head coach.
Could you imagine buying a ticket and going to a game that finishes in a 0-0 tie?
No.
Back then, that was probably more the more common than no. Not at all.
I couldn't imagine.
I played in a 0-0 tie.
Really?
Yeah, not senior year against San Antonio Cole when I was at Randolph. We had a 0-0 tie. It was the first time that Randolph had not beaten Cole straight up, and we were basically immortalized in the wrong way because we didn't beat the Cougars. But, 0-0 tie. That was
way to bring up that memory, Paul.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Rip that scab off.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right, now, Baylor at Amon Carter Stadium. Now, remember, TCU started. They were located in Waco, and eventually they moved to TCU or to Fort Worth. Overall, at Amon Carter Stadium, and when Grant Tapp was the head coach at Baylor, they had a lot of great success against TCU, but the overall record at Amon Carter Stadium is 16-22. Baylor is 16-22 against TCU in this stadium. Overall, 19-24 when they have played in Fort Worth before Amon Carter Stadium opened, I think, like in 1930.
Yeah. I keep forgetting that this is still the same stadium. Like every time I come here, like I know it's still Amon G. Carter Stadium, but it is. They've done so many renovations.
They did a great job with the renovation.
The first time I came here and sat in front of a swamp cooler in September, it was a nightmare.
They had an elevator that went 5 or 6 floors up that I promise you was more dangerous than getting up on a roller coaster that maybe lost the brakes, because it was a very dicey and took forever to get up to where you needed to be at the press box.
You just looked at the wall, the brick wall. There wasn't like a door.
Like being in an MRI machine.
You look at the brick wall, you're like, oh my God.
If that would have ever stopped on the way up, I would have absolutely just jumped out because I'm so claustrophobic. Air Force at this stadium, 1-9 overall. Bowl games here, because they've played in this Armed Forces Bowl quite a bit, they're 1-4. So they have not had success here back in the day when they were a part of the same conference.
Oh, so both teams stink.
Absolutely. The series between the two teams. Baylor has not lost to Air Force, not a lot of games, but they had a couple of games back-to-back in 1961 and 62, 1977, and then Baylor and Air Force here tonight at Amon Carter in the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. So there's some history between these two teams. We have heard from Sam Bradshaw, who broke down X's and O's between both Baylor and Air Force and how this thing lines up. Coming up next, a guy that ran this offense, the flex bone from Dallas-Fort Worth, Beau Morgan. He and his brother Blaine had great success as quarterbacks with the Air Force Academy. And Beau Morgan on the history, tradition, and his thoughts on this game is next on 365 Sports Game Day Live here on KWTX.
Central Texas Plumbing Solutions is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. We want to wish the Big 12 champion Bears great success this season. Sick 'em Bears.
I'm Carol Weaver with Waco Mattress Center. Central Texas has grown a lot, and so has the Weaver family. We've been selling the best mattresses at the best price right here on Valley Mills Drive for over 20 years. With brands like Sealy, Stearns & Foster, and Beauty Rest, we've sold over 400,000 mattresses. Our family would like to thank you for choosing Waco Mattress Center. I'm Carol Weaver, your local mattress expert. Thank you for your business and keeping it local.
Waco Mattress Center.
Hi, I'm John Proctor with Home Place Interiors. You know, nothing compares to the quality of an area rug to finish your house. Come by and save 50% on all in-stock and special order rugs. Come by Home Place Interiors where quality is affordable.
For all your flooring needs, visit Home Place Interiors at 523 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Central Texas Plumbing Solutions is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. We want to wish the Big 12 champion Bears great success this season. Sick 'em Bears.
Catch up on the day's news with KWTX News 10.
Baylor and Air Force, and we're now joined by former Air Force quarterback Beau Morgan. He joins Craig, Paul. I'm David Smoak on 365 Sports. Beau, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. What did it mean to play for one of the military academies?
Well, hey, guys, it's nice to meet you, and good to visit with you as well. Playing for an academy, I'll just speak for the Air Force Academy since that's my experience. It's not for everybody, that's for sure. You really have to want to play football to be able to play at a place like that, just simply because it's so demanding otherwise. And so much of your time and energy is spent just getting through school and everything else you have to deal with. And so, it was a tremendous experience for me. I look at the relationships and the quality of the people, my teammates, the coaches we had. What a special place. I mean, it was just that's one of the reasons I went to the academy, was just thinking that it would be the kind of place where I'd want, have an opportunity to just be with the people of high character and people that you kind of really enjoy being around and competing with and learning from and sharing life with. And that my experience lived up to that. I mean, I have lifelong friends, and there's a brotherhood at a place like the academy because you go through such a rigorous program across the board. You just become very, very close. You connect across social barriers, racial barriers. It's a really unique place, and I'm really thankful for that experience.
For them to be as consistent as they have been since you were there in the 90s, I mean, there's not really been long stretches of dip. You have a year where it doesn't really work out. How have they been able to maintain that? Whereas, I mean, especially if you look at Army and Navy, they've had maybe a little bit less consistency in that over the longest stretch of the time.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if I'm qualified to answer it, but what I would say to that is the quality of the leadership and the coaching from Coach DeBerry, and now with Coach Calhoun. Coach Calhoun was actually my freshman year quarterbacks coach at Air Force. Mike Thiessen, the offensive coordinator there, is someone I coached when I was a GA the year after I graduated, and Mike was a freshman. So my point is there's just kind of a connectedness across the different generations and decades, and a lot of the staff now at Air Force it consists of former players who understand what it means when they sit down with a parent and with a prospective recruit. You know, they can tell them firsthand what they're getting into and, you know, what the value of that educational experience is because they did it themselves. So I would just say there's a lot of continuity there. A lot of it you have to give credit to Coach DeBerry, the culture he established, you know, the expectation of winning is an important component to that culture. And then Coach Calhoun has, in a different way, I mean, albeit very much a different style than Coach DeBerry, but he has been able to just carry on that consistent competitive environment. The other thing I would say is that they do a great job of identifying players from high school who have just a really, really high competitive, and what I call a competitive intelligence. I mean, just guys who they really enjoy competing, probably have a chip on their shoulder. So I'm not sure how that differs from Army or Navy, to be honest with you. I mean, we have been a member of a conference withstanding through that entire time, and they were independent here and there, and I think maybe that's a factor because we always had the first goal of winning the Commander-in-Chief's trophy, but then we always had the goal of winning the conference championship to go along with that, and that was a really important part of the culture as well.
Beau, I got to ask this question. There's not a lot of teams that run any kind of a triple option or whatever. We've seen some that have played with it. Obviously, the academies do it, and they've been successful. Colorado won a national championship back in 1990. We know what Nebraska's history was with the triple option, the I formation. They got away from it because of speed of defenses, and it seemed like everybody got pass happy in a way. But isn't the spread really almost a form of the option of spreading people out, except it's just that you throw the ball a lot more?
Yeah, I think probably it depends on what spread you're talking about, but at the same time, it's funny. It's obviously the name is on everybody's mind, but I think I remember a quote from Mike Leach about this. Mm-hmm. You know, he basically said, hey, the spread is essentially taking triple option concepts and expanding those out further away from the football. So, you know, I can speak more from the option perspective, but yeah, I think you look at it and the concepts are very similar. You know, the beauty of the triple option, as you guys probably realize already, is that you can level the playing field because you're not blocking everybody, or you're not even trying to block everybody on defense. You're actually a lot of times scheming to unblock the best players on their defense, and whatever they do from a reaction perspective is going to be wrong if you execute correctly. So, you know, the mindset of the option offense and where there are probably a lot of similarities with other spread schemes is that whatever the defense does, we have an answer for. That was how we approached the game. I mean, there were times as a quarterback that I would think we played Notre Dame when they were ranked number 8 in the country in South Bend and, you know, beat them actually. And they were so good on defense. I just thought, oh man, we may not even gain a yard. But the reality is that because of the speed, if you can execute the triple option offense, it's really, really difficult to stop because it's just, you know, it really comes down to the execution and can you get the right angles? Can the quarterback get the team in the right play? And then if you have a couple players on offense that can break a tackle, now all of a sudden and you can throw the football, that really changes things with the triple option and really opens things up. When it's executed well, it's a lot of fun to watch, and it's a lot of fun to play in. So.
Unless you're a defensive coordinator. We do appreciate your time, Beau. We appreciate what you represent and also where you came from as far as not only Texas, but also the Air Force Academy.
Well, hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. Should be hopefully a good game on Thursday, huh? I don't know what you guys think about it, but I do follow Baylor because of what I mentioned, and it's a great opportunity for Air Force. I'm hopeful Air Force can stay on the field with Baylor, to be honest with you. But Air Force is usually a tough out. They'll be well prepared. They'll be well prepared. They probably will not beat themselves if they play the way they should play. I just don't know if they're talented enough to play with Baylor, to be honest. But I'm just hoping for a good ball game.
Baylor needs a win. I think Air Force will be focused, locked, and loaded. Baylor's been kind of in this little funk. They sure do need a win. There's no question about it. It ought to be a hell of a game. Beau, we appreciate you very much for being a part of the show with representing the Academy and also the Falcons football team, and thanks for your time.
Hey, thanks, guys. All the best to you.
You too. Beau Morgan, his brother Blaine, also the former quarterback at Air Force.
Game Day Live on News 10 is sponsored locally by TFNB, your bank for life, Advanced Pain Care, and Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
Find the perfect mattress for the way you sleep from Du Bois Furniture. We have a great selection of Tempur-Pedic and Stearns & Foster mattresses in stock and ready for delivery. Celebrate the season with better sleep from Du Bois Furniture.
Centex Roof Systems has been serving Central Texas and Waco since 1987. Built on old-fashioned family values, core beliefs, and morals, we strive to go above and beyond to make your project run as smoothly as possible. When you call your hometown commercial roofer, you know we'll exceed expectations to provide unique solutions for your roofing needs, payment options, and even insurance claims. Big or small, there's no job that Centex Roof Systems can't handle. Your hometown commercial roofer.
At Dr. Smiley, you're always our top priority. Dr. Lee, Dr. Lim, and the friendly staff are committed to delivering exceptional and professional care in general, family, cosmetic, and emergency dental services. Get $24.99 implant, abutment, crown, 3D CT scan, and consultation. Dr. Smiley accepts Medicaid and most dental insurance. Call Dr. Smiley today at 254-732-2606 and book your appointment today.
Celebrate the season and save at Du Bois Furniture. With 2 beautiful, fully stocked showrooms of furniture, you'll find on-trend furniture to help you celebrate the season in style. At Du Bois Furniture, serving the heart of Texas for over 61 years.
We are back, Game Day Live, inside one of the national radio broadcast booths at Amon Carter Stadium, Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Baylor and Air Force kickoff just after 6:30. Yesterday, National Signing Day, that didn't stop. There's players still signing, players still in the transfer portal. And Baylor today, Paul and Craig, picked up Dominic Richardson, running back from Oklahoma State, who scored a touchdown against them at McLean Stadium this year, and also Clark Barrington, who also, the brother of Campbell, who committed and signed with Baylor. He now will join Eric Mateos and his offensive line group starting in 2023.
Yeah, it's a huge pickup. They need, again, they're losing more than 5 offensive linemen this year to either graduation or the portal. So they've got to refill that. They've got to have starters. They're not going to have any starters back on the offensive line next year in earnest. And so they've got to get those guys, especially. I love the Richardson pickup. I think he's going to fit well in the offense. I think he provides something that they didn't quite have, which is somebody who can knock you back a little bit. I don't think he's going to be someone who's going to, rush for, 150 yards or have a 250-yard game one time where he just breaks out and has one of those special nights. But I think he can be effective for you, especially in those, down and short situations, 3rd and 4th down and short, and goal to go situations.
Yeah, I mean, they were, either due to experience or inexperience or injuries, pretty riddled at running back this year at any given moment. And you had to really lean on your true freshman, Richard Reese. And then towards the end of the year, you couldn't even really lean on him as much due to, injury fatigue, whatever. Just try not to run him to death as a true freshman, and you relied on Squirrel Williams when you could. But that running back room was never really solidified. And it was turned upside down from the very beginning when Tay McWilliams gets hurt in game number 2 with a concussion against BYU and never returns the rest of the year. I mean, and I still don't know that we have all the answers as to what his future holds. So there are big question marks in that running back room. And if Craig Williams were to leave, which he very well could, he walked on senior day, then that's one less guy that you have. And really that only really leaves you with Richard Reese and Quaylon Jones as far as proven commodities go. I really like the way that Quaylon Jones was playing by the end of the year and throughout the middle of the year. In particular, you saw a lot of growth from him, but they can't just have 2 guys that they know can play. They got to have, far more than that. So Dominic Richardson's a guy they've seen in person. We've seen him play at Oklahoma State over the years, and we know he can play a little bit, and he should be a nice complement to whoever else remains in that running back room, and vice versa. Whether he's the lead cow, the lead bell cow, or he's on any given Saturday, having to, play off of Richard Reese. I think he's going to fit the bill no matter what they're looking for, and definitely gives them some nice depth in that running back room that's definitely needed after what we saw this year. And the offensive line, I mean, you say the entire starting line's out. I mean, that pretty much sums it up, and that's not going to work or cut it or lead to, a big-time season next year if you don't address that, more so than just signing brand new baby-faced recruits. I mean, you're not going to find 5 freshmen that are going to come walking in ready to play right away. Maybe 1 guy, maybe if you're super lucky 2. So you definitely need those guys who have already been on campus or some guys who have played a good amount of snaps elsewhere to come in and help alleviate that. And they've done that with the Barrington brothers now. So I think offensively, those were 2 glaring areas of need, particularly the offensive line, and they've now addressed them, and I think we'll address that offensive line more so. And then with the running back room, remains to be seen. I think we need to hear some decisions from a guy like Craig Williams to see, exactly what those numbers will look like.
All right. One note about Dominic Richardson, and then we break. Last year, this season, and Oklahoma State, of course, is in a bowl game. He had 543 yards rushing. Squirrel Williams had 555 yards rushing. Dominic Richardson scored 8 rushing touchdowns. Squirrel Williams scored 4. And, of course, he was in and out like it's been throughout his career. So you do trade the stats in a way, depending on whatever's next for Squirrel Williams and everybody else in that running back room.
Yeah, I know you got a break. I would say those are 2 entirely different styles.
No, so absolutely. I'm just looking at the stats.
To have both. Yeah. But, I mean, that's good to know that numbers-wise you aren't dropping off a cliff if Squirrel does decide to leave.
When we come back, we're going to hear from Chris Williams of KWTX. He is here. Brave soul, along with Darby Brown. He ran an option offense in high school. He ran a triple option offense in high school. He breaks down what is the philosophy. What are you trying to do besides score on every snap? He's next from down in the end zone here at Amon Carter Stadium. This is 365 Sports and KWTX, Baylor and Air Force, Game Day Live.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done,
so we're
and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Richard Carr and his team are standing by the Bears in all sports this coming season, but Richard Carr's passion for football started many years ago when he was a trainer for the football team. In addition to his alma mater, Richard Carr also loves selling quality cars and trucks to his Central Texas neighbors. Whether you want the unbeatable GMC Sierra truck loaded with luxury and strong and tough for the workday, or the performance and ride of a Cadillac or Buick SUV, Richard Carr has an amazing lineup of vehicles for you. Stop by for a test drive, contact them online, or call and say sick 'em and you're immediately a VIP at Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Find them at Highway 6 at the Imperial exit or at richardcarr.com.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Game Day Live on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, TFNB, your bank for life, Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, Three Nations Brewing Company, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Edward Jones Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson and Cam Heathcott, and Bubba's 33.
Back here inside Amon Carter Stadium, Fort Worth, home of TCU, but tonight it's Air Force and Baylor in the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. And we know what Air Force runs. They run that flex bone. They have the option game. That's what most of the military academies have run, Army, Navy, and Air Force, to some certain tweaks along the way. KWTX, Chris Williams, he ran the triple option when he was at Skyline High School in Salt Lake City, and he joins us now on 365 Sports and KWTX on the field at Amon Carter Stadium. Chris, thanks for your time. What is the main philosophy, in your opinion, of running any kind of option offense?
Garrett, we can't hear Chris.
I got it. Hang on.
Okay, we don't have Chris yet locked in. We see him. He's down there trying to move around to keep himself warm during this now -5 degree wind chill, which has bounced back and forth between -3 and -5 most of the last hour or two. Chris ran the option when he was a high school player. He gave me a text earlier, sent me a text earlier in the week. He goes, hey, I can kind of get into the philosophy of it and much, much more. Now joined by Chris Williams of KWTX on Game Day Live. No?
Yeah, Garrett told me to try now.
All right, Chris, are you there? And if you are, what is the main philosophy when you run an option offense like you did in high school, or what Air Force, the Academy, does? Nope, we don't have him. Okay, we'll try to see if we can set that up here. Hey, let's do this. The other bowl games in the Big 12. Tonight, the first of the Big 12 teams, Baylor and Air Force here in Fort Worth. 20, and then everything else is after Christmas. There's a couple of things you want to do. You don't want to have to play a bowl game before Christmas, and you certainly don't want to play in your arch rival stadium, but that is what Baylor is doing here tonight. Oklahoma State, Wisconsin will play on the 27th. Kansas and Arkansas the following day. Texas Tech, Ole Miss that same day. And then the 29th, you have Oklahoma, Florida State, Texas and Washington. Texas, Washington, of course, is down in San Antonio. And then on the New Year's Eve, huge day for the Big 12 with Kansas State, Alabama, and then also TCU, Michigan as one of the semifinal games in the college football playoffs. Can you imagine if, in fact, they're not favored to win, but what a great day that would be if the Big 12 could have some success in those games on New Year's Day, New Year's Eve.
That'd be huge if TCU can beat Michigan. I mean, look, Craig and I talked about this yesterday. TCU did already, squeezed the juice out of their best season ever, faster than Baylor did out of their best season ever. So, Dave Aranda can maybe learn something from what Sonny Dykes did and was able to capitalize so unbelievably quickly. If you look at what they did, not only, recruiting high school players, but what they've done in the transfer portal to have guys coming into the program now. So I think that it'd be absolutely enormous for them given what they've already done in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. it'd be a great opportunity for the Big 12, and Big 12 folks have been through a lot, but I am not going to be like the SEC guy and root for everybody to give the Big 12 a great bowl record. I mean, to your point, it would be giant for the conference, and it would be much needed for the conference. But it's a great opportunity for TCU in particular. Kansas State against Alabama. I mean, Alabama said that their big guns are going to play in this game, or at least it appears so, with Bryce Young in particular. So there won't be any they didn't want to show up in case you beat them, like we've seen before with Alabama in bowl games. So yeah, I mean, giant opportunities would be great for the conference. I'm not necessarily rooting for every one of those teams per se, but it would be great if many of them could get a win.
Let's put it this way. Those are two teams playing on New Year's Eve who will be a part of the Big 12 going forward. Yeah. The Oklahoma and Texas both playing on the same day is ironic as well against Florida State and also Washington. Is Chris out?
Yeah, we
don't get Chris. All right, when we come back, earlier this week, we spoke with Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades, on many things. The bowl game, being here in Fort Worth. And he told us a couple of weeks ago when the bowl schedules were about to be released, when they released the college football standings, there was no way when he woke up on that Sunday morning he thought that Baylor would be playing in Fort Worth in the Armed Forces Bowl. Well, that wasn't the case because that's where they are here tonight. So when we come back, Mack Rhoades on this bowl game, on Baylor's football program, have they taken advantage or did they take advantage of 12-2 last year? And a lot about the transfer portal, NIL, and his thoughts about the Big 12 football schedule for next year being delayed and delayed and delayed. In his own opinion about that. This is 365 Sports and KWTX. We do appreciate you being here, and this is Game Day Live.
Central Texas Plumbing Solutions is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. We want to wish the Big 12 champion Bears great success this season. Sic 'em Bears.
I see many people who've had their life turned upside down by an injury.
I crushed my hand and broke it in 8 places and had soft tissue damage. I got a spinal cord stimulator and my device stopped working and I was devastated. We had to find a new neurosurgeon through Advanced Pain Care. They took care of all of it for me. They got everything back together where I can function.
Let Advanced Pain Care help you take your life back. Call today for a same-day appointment. Advanced Pain Care, the pain stops here.
Home Place Interiors. From designer drapes to custom total installation, quality area rugs to a wide selection of floor covering, Home Place Interiors has you covered. With over 40 years of experience, you can trust John Proctor and his knowledgeable staff to help you with your next home project. Home Place Interiors, where we do business the old-fashioned way, on a handshake.
Central Texas Plumbing Solutions is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. We want to wish the Big 12 champion Bears great success this season. Sic 'em Bears.
KWTX has the most advanced technology powered by Johnson Brothers Ford.
We're joined by Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades. Mack, we were bringing this up. The coaches get extensions. You had one, of course, with Dave Aranda. You had one that you signed with Matt Rhule, among others. My question is, what is the give and take when you pay a coach in these days millions? And then on top of that, there are bonus structures or kick-ins as well. Is that just part of the business? Because aren't they getting paid to reach those specific bonus structures in the first place?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think you answered the question yourself. That's just typical of the world that we live in, right? You have your contract, and you've got what I would reference as guaranteed money, and that's handled different ways. Depending upon the institution, that can be just all base salary. That can be base salary plus money earned for, external things, TV, radio, etc. But you've got the guaranteed, money that you pay them annually. And then, there's a performance incentive bonus on top of that, right, for reaching, certain, milestones. And, I think where I get frustrated with some of it is, what's that lower threshold? And, should we be paying any bonus money if you win 6 games, for example, et cetera, versus 10, 11, 12. And so, without, going into specifics, I would say that we've been really, really thoughtful about how we do the performance, bonus incentive. And is that, are those things, truly have to be things that are moving the program forward and, doesn't just make us average, so to speak. So I don't know if that answers your question, but, across the country, everybody's got guaranteed money and then the performance incentive money.
So, Mack, not much going on this week, huh? Your football team got signing day tomorrow and then the bowl game right after. What do you make of just the timing of the calendar and how all that's kind of worked out?
It's interesting, Craig, that you asked that, because I was on the NCAA football oversight committee, call today. And, I actually mentioned, we've talked about it before. But I think we need to talk about it again, just the whole timing of everything. And, is this the right time to have the early signing period? And, you think about playing in a bowl game and even particularly a bowl game pre-Christmas, you're almost at a disadvantage because you're trying to, practice, prepare, all of those things. And right in the middle of it, you're having to have conversations, now we're in a dead period that just began, but leading up to it, trying to solidify your class and make sure that all of that's going well. And by the way, what's really made this difficult is, we're in the middle of the transfer portal window. And, we've been fortunate at Baylor where, we've had, less than a handful, enter the portal and transfer out. But we've got, programs just in our own conference that, are up in the 14, 15 range. There's some teams, at least one team I know for sure of in the SEC that's lost 20 to the portal. I think the high, we were looking at data today, the high is 24, that there's a program in the country at the FBS level. Right now the average is about 9.5 that are going per program that are going into the portal. Last year it was in the 7s, so it's gone up. And so this is a huge reality. And man, we're asking our coaches, to navigate a ton of it. And then not to mention, what happens if you have staff changes. And so we've got a head coach that's trying to manage all of that, right, and be the defensive coordinator at the same time. So it's a lot, and I just think we've got to rethink all of it.
Mack, why wait until it's like reactive and not be proactive? The NIL, the portal, the new signing period, which I thought was a great idea. Then all of a sudden, now that's even part of the mess in a way. Coaches leaving early because of the new early signing date. Is it easier said than done?
It's easier said than done. And look, that's the logical question. And so, you're asking the right question. But I think I don't know any other way to say it. And I don't mean this to be, negative, but I just think the bureaucracy, the structure of the NCAA, like we've got to find a way to handle real issues in real time and be able to even be proactive and handle them, as best we can before they become problems, etc. Now everybody's competitive, and so everybody's trying to find an edge and a loophole, and so it's hard to sit there and predict everything and run every ground ball out. But I think it's with the new NCAA president, I think there's going to need to be a deep dive on how the NCAA, conduct its business operationally. And I don't know. I think it's antiquated, and we need to get much better at doing it. So.
Yesterday evening, Jeff Traylor at UTSA. This morning, Mack Brown at North Carolina brought up and basically posted on their Twitter feeds tampering, that players are being tampered with or poached or whatever, or trying to be poached. Why would it be coaching suicide if, for example, somebody contacted a player at college X, Y, or Z and you put the text or Instagram or whatever it is up online?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good, I think that's a fair comment. And why don't we do that? Why don't we expose? And, I think there's probably this unwritten rule amongst coaches. And then I think, there's also, proving it, 100% fact. But it's got to stop. Like I'm telling you this, we had players contacted, some of our players being contacted before the season was even over. And so, if we think, it happens not until the season is completed, the last regular season game. And, I'm going to say it. I think a school or two within our league has. And so it absolutely has to stop. And I will tell you this, and I can say this, proudly, but you start to begin to think, are we just at a great disadvantage because we are committed to doing it the right way? And I can tell you this, Baylor's not tampering. Baylor's not, calling, and want to see if players are willing to transfer to our place. And we're not doing it through a third party in a roundabout way, et cetera. And so, I am proud of Coach Aranda and our staff, the way we're handling it. But those that aren't handling it right, it needs to be stopped.
If you found a coach do that, would he be done?
Yes.
Mack Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics, with us on 365 Sports. One final thing. The schedule that's not being released because of whatever is going on behind the scenes with the possibility of what happens with Texas and OU. You didn't say that, I will. When does it have to be released so you guys as programs can start to put together schedules of like games and homecoming and whatever else is involved in that?
So it's a great question, and I just don't see how we can go any longer than mid-January. That's my personal opinion. That's not, anybody else's, but yeah, I just, in fairness to everybody, I don't see how it can go beyond that. So,
in fairness to everybody ought to be a slogan when the new conference is formed.
I like it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mack. We'll see you in Fort Worth.
Hey, just quickly, Merry Christmas to you guys and your families, and thank you for everything you do. And then just, Merry Christmas to all of the Baylor family. Just wishing everyone a blessed Christmas season. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mack.
Thanks, Mack.
Mack Rhoades, Director of Athletics at Baylor.
Game Day Live on News 10 is sponsored locally by TFNB, your bank for life, Advanced Pain Care, and Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
Hail damage to your roof can be costly to your home, so why not protect yourself now? Get your roof repaired or replaced by Central Texas's most trusted roofer, Centex Roof Systems. Our team will evaluate your damage and get you a quote fast so we can repair your roof quickly and efficiently after the storm. Call the name you can trust, Centex Roof Systems. We want to thank all our customers for their support and wish you and your family a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
It's here, the Sealy Posturepedic Premium in an all-natural choice, the first of its kind from a brand you trust. These Sealy natural beds have natural latex, a supportive yet floating feel with Sealy's premium inner springs. Not like any hybrid you've seen, no glue or toxic foam smell, a top-notch sleep system that will have you sleeping well and waking up ready to face the day. Waco Mattress Center, your local mattress experts. I'm Carol Weaver. Thank you for your business and keeping it local.
At Dr. Smiley, you're always our top priority. Dr. Lee, Dr. Lim, and the friendly staff are committed to delivering exceptional and professional care in general, family, cosmetic, and emergency dental services. Get $24.99 implant, abutment, crown, 3D CT scan, and consultation. Dr. Smiley accepts Medicaid and most dental insurance. Call Dr. Smiley today at 254-732-2606 and book your appointment today.
We're back. Game Day live at Amon Carter Stadium. We just had the Air Force flyover, the ceremonial flyover. Kickoff is about 45 minutes or so away. Of course, the weather conditions, I'm sure, affecting when that happened. Down on the field, in fact, is Darby Brown, KWTX. She joins us from the field at Amon Carter Stadium. And God bless you again, Darby, for being where you are and doing this as well. Did you experience the flyover yourself?
I did, and that was really cool, especially, just kind of extra special when you have the Armed Forces Bowl. So, yeah, we're ready to play some football down here. The Bears are warming up. They have helmets with the BU flag, American flag on it as well. So, it's almost game time.
Darby, just to give people an idea of how difficult and challenging the wind is, what would you say right now is the wind speed and where it's coming from?
The wind is not entirely terrible yet, and it's already so cold. So I can only imagine it's going to pick up, and, it's going to be feeling even worse. But this has got to be the coldest I think I've ever been in my life, just to put it in perspective.
Darby, I noticed there's a little uniform upgrade for the Bears, or at least a thematic, little helmet sticker for today's game.
Yeah, the helmet sticker looks nice. I just noticed that as well. The BU, the one with the flags. I think they've worn them for some other games in the past, like maybe around September, 9/11. But yeah, it looks good. And it's all over the place. Some guys have like sleeves on, but a lot of them don't. And all of them have gloves on, which is good, because if you have your fingers out in gloves for us, well, actually, I take that back. Some don't have gloves on. So it's all over the place on what they're doing down here.
How long could you stand out in the conditions you're in right now if you had to?
I don't want to find out, to be honest. I don't know. My fingers, I was taking my hand out of my gloves just to get the phone ready, and, it's stinging. It's so cold. So, I would not want to find out.
Darby, we know this team needs a win. Baylor does. Air Force obviously wants to close out with a 10-win season if they can win. How important do you think getting anything positive entering the offseason will be for Baylor if they can win this game today?
I think it'd be super positive. I think it'd be good for, having a winning season. That's a big deal. I think it'd be good for recruiting. I'm pretty sure I saw, Jeff Grimes even maybe talking to someone. I don't know, he's FaceTiming somebody right before the game. I feel like it had to have been a recruit. I don't even know if that's really allowed. I don't know. Anyways, I'm pretty sure that's what's going on. So for all of that as well, I think it really would help, just create some buzz amongst the team and the program. And so I think a win would be great. Make it a winning year. That's a big deal.
Darby, thank you for weathering the storm or the weather. We really do appreciate you throughout the year. It's been wonderful to have you and Chris involved. And you have a prediction for the game tonight?
Oh, I think the Bears will win. I hope it's, I can't imagine it's going to be a ton of points on the board, but I think the Bears will win for sure. So
all right, thank you. Stay warm, get inside. Right, Darby Brown, KWTX with us, and we're back to give our predictions of the game tonight, Baylor and Air Force, the Falcons and the Bears. This is 365 Sports, KWTX, and Game Day Live.
Richard Carr and his team are standing by the Bears in all sports this coming season, but Richard Carr's passion for football started many years ago when he was a trainer for the football team. In addition to his alma mater, Richard Carr also loves selling quality cars and trucks to his Central Texas neighbors. Whether you want the unbeatable GMC Sierra truck loaded with luxury and strong and tough for the workday, or the performance and ride of a Cadillac or Buick SUV, Richard Carr has an amazing lineup of vehicles for you. Stop by for a test drive, contact them online, or call and say Sikkim and you're immediately a VIP at Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Find them at Highway 6 at the Imperial Exit or at richardcarr.com.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Did you know Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is open to the public? Next time you're in town for a Baylor athletic event or you're in town for tourism, take advantage of their day passes for $10 a piece or the weekend for $30. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers 40 group exercise classes, including indoor cycling and yoga, boot camp, and bar. New free weights, weight machines, TRX rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines, and a spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alec Botch, where you will be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, kids club, 16 tennis courts, and 8 pickleball courts, and youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons available. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit wacotennis.com or visit them next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533, Chuck Verno at 720 North 64th Street, Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Game Day Live on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, TFNB, your bank for life, Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, Three Nations Brewing Company, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Edward Jones Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, and Bubba's 33.
Back at Amon Carter Stadium, Baylor and Air Force just over a half an hour away from kickoff here at the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. We're about to give our predictions on the game. We've asked those of you in the chat room for that as well, and we do appreciate your time with us since we opened up the show at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Our game day show began, of course, at 4:30. Air Force is 9-3. They lost to Wyoming by 3. 7 to Utah State, lost by 5 to Boise State. So their 3 losses have all been a touchdown and or less. They've won 4 straight, including games against Army, New Mexico, Colorado State, and San Diego State. They beat Colorado 41-10 the second week of the season. They're 9-3. They have stability with Troy Calhoun. They've been good for them. This would give them a 10-win season.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really tough game. I'm just going to lean towards the talent of Baylor. I don't think this is going to be a blowout by any means. I think this is going to be run. I don't think we're going to see field goals tonight. Really, I think you're going to see a game that's probably in the 21-14 range. range or something like that with the Baylor win, because it's going to be ball control and trying to deal with this weather.
Yeah, I'll go with the Bears for the talent reason that I mentioned earlier that you just mentioned. Just without any other thing to sort of sway me. I mean, it'd be one thing if they were coming in here off 3 straight losses and that was, uninterrupted. But they've had a month to get themselves together, to figure out, more about themselves and their direction. And obviously have made some coaching changes. You'd think that's a kick in the butt rather than something that brings them down further. So I would hope and I would believe that they are highly motivated. And I know that Air Force will be as well. It'll be a big deal for them to get 10 wins and beat a Power 5 team. So I don't think it'll come easy. But I do just slightly default to the Bears here, and I do think it'll be somewhat low scoring compared to what these teams could probably put up in much better conditions.
We have no idea. The over-under is like 45 or something like that. That will depend on maybe a break or two or a turnover game, and you don't want to see that, but you probably will see some of those with the wind where it is right now at 20 miles an hour, and it's been even heavier than that, a heavier wind than that. Right now it's -4 wind chill. I'll say this. I do think Baylor wins the game. We will find out, to me, early on if they are all locked in for this one. I don't think you're going to see a Kansas State destruction will happen at home, but we'll find out if this team. Craig or Paul, one of you made this comment a minute ago during the commercial break. This is motivation tonight to win, so you don't have to come back and play in a game like this next year. You want to be somewhere else where there's a beach or there's water, in Florida or in Phoenix where there's no water, but we understand what I'm talking about. Somewhere else besides here, and we'll see what happens with that, if in fact it happens at all. I'll take Baylor.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I agree. It was Craig that said that. Yeah, you got to, they didn't expect to be here. I was telling somebody earlier today, my flight to go to Nashville was supposed to be 2 days ago because we made those reservations back in August that Baylor would be in a bowl game that was after Christmas. So I'd have to go somewhere from Nashville, not to Nashville. Baylor's got to improve on that because you don't want to play, like, if you're a defending conference champion, the next year turning around and playing before Christmas cannot be acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, like I just said a second ago, I'm going with the Bears by a slight margin. I think it's a good way to kind of, kickstart what should be a big post-Christmas run for the Big 12. I said earlier, I'm not necessarily rooting for every Big 12 team, especially those who aren't going to be in there very much longer. But I do think it will be big for those, those remaining, for the next several years or the next, the foreseeable future to get some big wins. And so, I think tonight would be a good starting point, and we'll see, how the weather holds up. But it's going to be very interesting, that's for sure.
Scotty B has Baylor 24-14. I saw some others that are picking Baylor. There's a couple that picked Air Force in the chat room. We appreciate it. 28-17. Paxton says Air Force 23-21.
Brad Roberts, he carries the ball a lot, and that's right up their alley, and that does worry me about. So that defense better show up tonight for the Bears.
If they're not focused, they'll get embarrassed by that triple option or that flex bone. Jacob Wilson, Garrett Ross back at our homeland, also Jack McKenzie, and, of course, Levi Caraway and Emery Winter. For Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, for everybody with KWTX or Sikkim 365 Radio or 365 Sports, this has been wonderful to be a part of Game Day Live from Fort Worth, Texas. This is Game Day Live, and have a great and Merry Christmas.
Find the perfect mattress for the way you sleep from Du Bois Furniture. We have a great selection of Tempur-Pedic and Stearns & Foster mattresses in stock and ready for delivery. Celebrate the season with better sleep from Du Bois Furniture.
We want people to know that we don't only care about the unborn, we care about those that have been born. And we believe that we bring hope, that we save lives, and that we transform families.